President Trump is getting the red carpet treatment in China. Just hours ago, he stepped off Air Force One after touching down in Beijing. China rolled out a formal welcome with a military honor guard and band. All the pomp and circumstance, though, cannot mask the high stakes for American power. Before leaving for Beijing, the president spoke on one of the issues sure to be front and center, the conflict with Iran.
What is your message to President Xi as it relates to the Iran war?
Well, I think, number one, we're going to have a long talk about it. I think he's been relatively good, to be honest with you. You look at the blockade, no problem. They get a lot of their oil from that area. We've had no problem. And he's been a friend of mine. He's been somebody that we get along with. And I think you're going to see that good things are going to happen. This is going to be a very exciting trip. A lot of good things are going to happen.
Do you think he needs to intervene at all with the Iranians? Do you think he can help in any way?
No, I don't think we need any help with Iran. We'll win it one way or the other. We'll win it.
Iran is just one part of a very full agenda. The president is also expected to push Xi Jinping on trade, artificial intelligence, Taiwan, agriculture, and China's growing nuclear capabilities. The White House says the president wants to come home with real economic deals that benefit Americans. However, their strategic tensions are very real. China is still buying oil from Iran and Russia. And U.S. officials say Beijing's support for America's adversaries will be part of that long discussion that the president mentioned. White House correspondent Aisha Hasni is in Beijing. Aisha, good to see you.
Hi, Harris. Well, the president says the first thing he wants to talk to President Xi about is trade, asking him to open up China to the business leaders that have come along with him on this delegation to Beijing. He says that he wants to talk about business, and that is going to be the focus of the trip. However, as you mentioned, Iran is going to come up. He says that he will have a long talk with Xi about that. He says he does not need China's intervention to get a deal with Iran, but notes that it is China that stands to benefit the most from a reopened Strait of Hormuz.
I have a great relationship with President Xi, and I think it's going to remain that way. We have a lot of things to discuss. I wouldn't say Iran is one of them, to be honest with you, because we have Iran very much under control. We're either going to make a deal or they're going to be decimated. So one way or the other, we win.
What about Taiwan?
But we're going to be talking with President Xi about a lot of different things. I would say more than anything else will be trade.
On the table, everything from tariffs to artificial intelligence, chip production, Taiwan, beef and soybean exports. And there is a large delegation of tech and business CEOs arriving here to Beijing as well. According to Elon Musk on X, though, only he and NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang were riding along with the president aboard Air Force One. President Trump truth socialing while he was aboard Air Force One that he will be asking President Xi, a leader of extraordinary distinction, to, quote, open up China so that these brilliant people can work their magic and help bring the People's Republic to an even higher level. Now, we won't see the president anymore later tonight. He is at his hotel now. We will see him tomorrow when he heads to the Great Hall near Tiananmen Square, and that is where he will be received by President Xi.
That sounds
Harris?
great. Trade is still our leverage. It's interesting because you said that's the top line thing. He did too. It is their weakness. Their middle class is all but vanishing, according to some reports. So that trade and the cost of things in China will be hugely important as they talk. And again, that's our leverage.
Welcome, everybody, to an unscheduled afternoon show because the feature today is going to be J.D. Vance is doing an anti-fraud news conference at 2 o'clock. Just to do a little bit of housekeeping, at 10 o'clock tonight, I'll probably go live at 9:30. At 9:30, I'm going to go live. President Trump is going to be meeting with Xi Jinping in China with the entire entourage. As you heard Aisha Hasni from Fox talking, saying tomorrow, because it's tomorrow morning, she's already over in China. And so it was last night or tonight, whatever you want to say by the time change. It'll be 10 o'clock in the morning for her. It'll be 10 o'clock at night for us covering the festivities this evening. But there was something President Trump said. Actually, there were two things that President Trump said there. that I wanted to draw your attention to, because I think a lot of people are completely missing it with this Chinese visit. I think people, especially in the media, they don't want to admit what's happening. So the first thing that Harris mentioned was President Trump had to jump on CNBC. CNBC incorrectly reported that the great Jensen Huang of NVIDIA was not invited to this incredible gathering of the world's greatest business men and women, proudly going to China. In actuality, Jensen is currently on Air Force One, and unless I ask him to jump off the plane, which is highly unlikely, CNBC's reporting is incorrect, or as they say in politics, fake news. It is an honor to have Jensen, Elon, Tim Apple, he's talking about Tim Cook, Tim Apple, Larry Fink, Steven Schwarzman, Kelly Ortberg, Brian Sykes, Jane Frazier, Larry Culp, David Solomon, Sanjay Mitra, Christine Ammon, and many others on board, or actually getting to that meeting. And many others will be journeying to the great country of China, where I will be asking President Xi, a leader of extraordinary distinction, to, quote, open up China so that these brilliant people can work their magic and help bring the People's Republic to an even, I should have scrolled, to an even higher level. In fact, I promise that when we are together, which will be in a matter of hours, obviously this was on Air Force One, I will make that my very first request. I have never seen or heard of any idea that would be more beneficial to our incredible countries. President Donald J. Trump. The only communication he made, other than to basically trash somebody from Mitch McConnell's camp, that is the only communication he made from Air Force One. So what should you take from that? Well, you should ignore everything that the media is talking about, because they're going to be just focusing on Iran, and they're missing the part where I think, I don't know, where I think that this thing could be world changing in terms of impact. If you look at who's going and you look at what they're doing, and if you try to get a parallel as to how are these guys coming together, why are these men and women all flying over to China? This isn't a diplomatic event. There is nothing here about ambassadorial type activity. This is all about business. This is all about the ducats. This is all about the economy, which is why I think there's so many people in the media who miss it, because they don't like talking about it. They don't like discussing prosperity. And so there are people in our chat who don't like talking about prosperity, but you can't deny it. You're going to be looking at it. This is probably one of the craziest geopolitical images of possibly our lifetime. And almost nobody is talking about it. Nobody is realizing the dimension, the immenseness of it right now. Not sure if you paid attention, but as of, let's see here, 5 minutes ago, this is the gold market, which is up today. This is the silver market, which is way up today. There's something happening in this meeting that people aren't ready for. In fact, dare I say, no, I won't say it because I don't want to be the one that people come back to, but what's it? Blue Star Airlines likes Telecom. You remember the movie Wall Street? If I'm betting heavy, I see what this is all about. Trump is in China. He flew all the way over to China, and with him, according to what he has said, part of the delegation includes some of the biggest names in business. No ambassadors here. This is all business. Elon Musk, Tesla, SpaceX, Jensen Huang, NVIDIA, Tim Cook, obviously Tim Apple, Larry Fink from BlackRock, Steven Schwarzman from Blackstone, David Solomon, Goldman Sachs, Jane Fraser is from Citibank, Citigroup. Kelly Ortberg is from Boeing. You see where I'm going here? Cristiano Amon is from Qualcomm. Sanjay Mehrotra is from Micron. Larry Culp is from GE Aerospace. And on and on and on. And of course, Trump himself. You have to really be obtuse not to understand what this potentially could mean, not just for the United States, but for the entire world. You know, there's a deal to be made, as you guys all know, I assume you know, that China gets most of its oil from Iran. Funny, not a whole lot of talk is being made right now about the Iranian conflict. What if, with all these business people holding this giant carrot in front of China, they said, we can come do all this. We want you to buy your oil from the United States. Iran is a dust bowl at that point. Well, what's it in my best interest to buy oil from the United States instead of, Iran? Well, all these boys here and women, we're going to do business in China. Think about what could happen almost instantaneously. The markets will flipping explode. The Democrats can't hold on to those reins of what could potentially happen if these deals get cut. I hope you're thinking long, again, like where the puck is going, because this is some seriously high stakes poker. This is the kind of poker they play on the Riviera. Simultaneously, the world's most important AI and chip companies are at this meeting. America's most powerful financial companies are at this meeting. Central players in aviation, energy, and global supply chains are at this meeting. And you got the media wondering, so are we going to be talking about, no, this is about global commerce on a magnificent scale. And exactly these are the people now sitting at a table together with Xi Jinping and all of his people. After years and years and years of trade wars and sanctions and tariffs and restrictions and decoupling and Taiwan tensions, anti-China rhetoric. Now this happens? I know many of us were worried about the dangers of having President Trump go over there because of what's been going on here. But I think he's in a very safe place because I think Xi Jinping and the Chinese know how important this is for their country. This isn't a normal state visit. We're not going to be sitting here talking about diplomacy. This is in my estimation, this is an attempt to completely reorder the balance, the economic relationship between the two largest superpowers in the world. Just imagine that. People have always looked at China as an adversary. People always looked at Russia as an adversary. What if out of this meeting comes no more adversarial stuff, but partnership? What if there are deals on AI? Because Trump wants AI. What if Boeing and capital flows, the banks, the aerospace, Tesla, SpaceX, all get open access to a Chinese market of, I don't even know how many people they have. Can you imagine what will emerge from this if this meeting is successful? History will look upon it, if it is what I think is going to happen, when they look back retrospectively, they will consider this meeting here one of the most important geopolitical moments in history. Most of the media is reporting on it as if it were some sort of diplomatic appointment. It isn't. Why would President Trump, the guy who wrote Art of the Deal, bring this exact constellation of executives to meet with Xi Jinping at one of the most compressed geopolitical moments in modern history? Why would he do it? These aren't politicians. These aren't diplomats. They're the CEOs of the biggest companies in the world. Man, semiconductors, global payments, AI infrastructure, aerospace, food supply, everything. They've got their hands in everything. They are the ones who basically people worry about are having too much control, and they're sitting in front of the two guys in the world who have the most control of the world. Oh, and by the way, China, you have no access to the Western Hemisphere. Not just United States, we control the Western Hemisphere. Can you imagine sitting at a negotiation that has these kinds of stakes in front of them? You want to go play with Iran? Go ahead and play in that sand pit. Look at what we got. Look at everything that we can offer you. Soon, we'll offer you Cuba. You'll be able to do some trade there. You know you can do some stuff now with us in Venezuela. What business person, notice I didn't say politician, what business person would be like, no, don't want to do it. I don't want any of this architecture that you put together. I don't want nothing to do with this Western Hemisphere crap. If you understand what happened after World War II, a lot of this will start making sense to you. The post-1944 world was built on centralized debt, military enforcement, the petrodollar, the petrodollar dependency, SWIFT control, which means how the money works across countries, and industrial age financial rails. But a digital civilization where we find ourselves now in this golden era requires something completely different. You need to be able to have real-time settlement of funds, instantaneous. You do the transaction, it hits your bank. You need neutral interoperability, meaning I can't worry about some rogue nation holding me hostage. Sorry, Iran, you're about to get screwed big time. It's amazing if you sit back and look at from like, a 30,000-foot view. I'm like, wait a second, this is really, really big. And at the same time, I understand it's extremely scary to many people, especially those of us who are America first. Because you're thinking, hey, we're breaking free from the hold of these other countries. Why would we want to get chummy with China? Because you want the other big superpower not to be an adversary. See, the Democrats have built their entire political structure based on having boogeymen. You always have to have a boogeyman if you're a Democrat. Whether that boogeyman is MAGA, Trump, Whitey, racism, fascism, China, Russia, you got to have the boogeyman. What happens when there's no boogeyman and people are living cohesively around the world? Then it makes sense why Iran needs to be neutralized. Dude, we don't have to fight. This is a completely different age. I don't need to drop bombs on you. Let's just do this together, and all of our countries are going to, what? Prosper. You're a sovereign nation. You got a gazillion people over there doing whatever you want to do. What if we did this? We don't need to worry about nuclear weapons. Where we're going, we don't need nuclear weapons. Let's keep it that way. The Democrats are the ones who will have a problem. As this unfolds over the next couple of days, it will be the Democrats who have a problem because they abhor, i.e., hate prosperity. They don't like the idea of completely transparent countries working together. They're freaking out because we're not giving Ukraine $400 million more. What if the real deal here isn't about China defeating America or America defeating China, as we've been always led to believe? But instead, what if it is something that is mutually assuring the financial explosion for both of the two largest countries, most powerful countries on earth? Everybody knows what AI is going to mean. Only a few people are going to be able to harness it. And the people who can harness it don't need to be, at each other's throats. We need to be together on this. This is something that we haven't, when I say we haven't seen in our lifetime. We have the ability, you remember back in, well, none of us remembers, we probably weren't here, but when the gold rush happened, and then they laid the railroad, and all these captains of industry were able to start things that nobody else had started. They were able to do things nobody else could do. If you ever seen, I'm telling you, if you've never seen the series, I believe it's on Discovery Channel, or History Channel, The Men Who Built America. Democrats hate that. No, slaves built America. The Men Who Built America. Go watch that. Go watch when you hear what Henry Ford did and what Rockefeller and the Vanderbilts did. I'm not talking about the crazy stuff from England that we all know about. I'm talking about what they actually did to make things work. How they exported oil and drilled for oil and built cars and all these captains of industry. We haven't seen that in, 100 years? Some say the internet was the next one, but it's not the same thing as what we're what we're in right now. The value is instant. The value is global. It's programmable. Whoever helps architect the transition is going to shape the next 100 years on the planet, not in your country. Way past the time I'm here and most of you are here, what happens today could be shaped. It could shape for the next 100 years what this world looks like. There's Amtrak right now, but it would never have been Amtrak if somebody didn't build the railroad. Think of that. We are building a railroad and we are doing something nobody has seen. And 100 years from now, they're like, when did this start? Well, Trump went over to China. He talked to this dude in China, Xi Jinping, and they decided they're going to put together a global way for this all to work. Maybe that's why the payment giants and, the asset managers and the chip manufacturers and aerospace leaders and tokenization infrastructure firms all suddenly want to show up in the same room today. Have you thought about that? See, what I'm telling you right now, probably a lot of people don't talk about, and what I'm telling you right now, a lot of people don't comprehend. There's a reason all these people are in China in the same room today, because it's not Trump with just Marco Rubio. I don't even know if Marco Rubio went. Yeah, he went. It's not a Secretary of State. It's not an ambassador. It's not Pete Hegseth. It's not talking war. The people in that room should have the light bulbs going off in your head right now saying, OMG, this is so big. I read somebody on Twitter said, put everything you got in the stock market. Now, I will never say that because I don't want people to absorb losses. But what we're going to see in the next probably 3 to 4 days is going to make people billions. Billions. They're not over there to have tea and crumpets. They collectively represent trillions of dollars of capital. If you looked at the market capitalization of the companies that are sitting in front of Xi Jinping, they don't need to waste their time, energy to go over there and talk, tea and crumpets. They're out there about emerging and creating a completely immense world economy. However, a sovereignty first system. America first, but multipolar at the same time. A digitally connected system. Potentially even a peace through prosperity system. It's funny, there's no reason to fight if everybody's doing well. If everybody's doing well, what are we going to, hey, you going to mess this up? No. This isn't talking about a world without nations, a world where nations can transact without financial hostage taking is the reason this is happening. Not centralization, not conquest, not tariffs, not war, not constant friction and atomic nuclear discussions. What's going on in that room matters more than the headlines that you are going to be reading from the people in the media, because they don't want you to know. So the only way you're going to know is by listening to what Trump says and what comes out of it with Xi Jinping, and then look at the indicators. And if you look at the indicators, as I just showed you, and you start seeing this, and that's basically over the last day, and you're seeing this, that's over the last 5 days. And you look at the same thing with gold, and that's today, and it's all green, last 5 days, and it's coming back up. Things are going to be shaking this tree big time. And I find it incumbent to let you know as much as possible that the minutia that the Democrats are talking about is racist, it's fascist, and no, we're about to see something that is going to shake the world. There are going to be fortunes made. They're going to be kings made. Yeah, they're going to be kings made, because these people who are at this meeting are going to basically work with President Trump, Xi Jinping, the future Chinese leader, the future American president, to build things that nobody can ever take away. If you haven't yet at this point dipped your toes into AI and some of the different prompting and scripting that you can do, if you haven't yet, today might be a good time. Today might be a day that could change your life if you understand what you're looking at. Or you can go back to bitching at Democrats. It's your choice, and that's the way I think Trump wants it. That's why he keeps saying, with golden era, here's what we're going to be doing. They don't want that. If you understand what the media and Democrats are trying to do, it's trying to keep you away from looking at the golden era. The hell with gas prices, the hell with all the stuff that people are talking about, inflation. Do you understand? And if you don't, now would be a time to dig in. What is going to happen as a result of these meetings? They need you to focus on the minutia. Oh, gas is expensive today. Oh my God, because they don't want you seeing, whoa, are we going to be able to do all this stuff the way they're talking? I don't know about you. I'm ready. I am so ready for this. So I'm excited, as you can tell. I'm very, very excited. SB, is SB in here? Yeah, there he is. What's up, man?
Hey, good afternoon, sir.
How you been?
I'm doing all right. A lot of stuff's happening in the United States, and I'm hearing this going on a lot today. I'm reading that J.D. Vance's anti-fraud task force just blocked $1.4 billion in federal funds from home health and hospice providers. 90% of the folks that had the funds blocked didn't even reach out to get them restored. So there's a lot of fraud going on. So J.D. Vance basically has said to every state in the union, address fraud or lose federal Medicaid funding. Boom.
Wow. I mean, the fact that he's holding a press conference while President Trump is over in China, the timing of it is not. There's no coincidences here. They know exactly how they're doing it. They know, and it's funny because I was watching the news and people are like, "Oh, it's very peculiar." I'm like, peculiar my behind. You don't think he said, "Okay, I want you to do this now. You drop this now, and we'll go ahead and get this stuff done." I mean, it's so. It's mind blowing how people don't realize that, you know.
Yes.
And
it's crazy. It's amazing the fraud. Like, I'm following this. I mean, there's so many stories coming out. I can make a show out of it. I'm telling you right now. And then Karen Bass, she's freaking out now because she's screaming. She says, "Oh my God, these ads, they're taking a violent turn. That worries me. Your messages are so hateful. You'll provoke people." Oh, really? Like maximum warfare everywhere, all the time?
and the
Spare
other
me the
lady,
outrage,
the
woman.
other lady from California, he's a fascist. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're the ones. It just tells you they have nothing. Let me tell you a quick story about Spencer Pratt. You saw the show I did yesterday, and you know those AI videos that he's been putting out. Well,
Days.
Ashley clipped that segment from yesterday's show. She went to upload it, and as soon as she uploaded, YouTube said, "Nope,
Wow.
can't use it." And I'm like, "Wait a second here. Are
Holy
you
cow.
seriously? You're that afraid of Spencer Pratt winning that you don't want that AI stuff to even be shown? We don't even want you. It's too violent." See,
Oh
the
my
Democrats
gosh.
understand the words that they say and who they say them to. And just by saying it's violent, all of a sudden you can't show them things on YouTube.
Welcome back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
He's back.
I'm like, is this thing on? Okay,
Yes.
just wanted to check,
All
make sure
right.
everything's still running.
You already had the conspiracy theorists saying, "Oh my God, YouTube knocked them offline. The commies, they're coming for them."
No, we are going through right now I'm looking outside, heavy rain and thunder and lightning and stuff. So
Welcome to Florida.
South Florida in the spring and summer. This is what it looks like. But I don't know if you guys have been following the news. We had some wildfires down in the Everglades, and people were texting me and calling me. Oh my God, how bad is it? I'm like, it's in the Everglades. What's that mean? Look on a map and look at what the Everglades is. It's surrounded by water. It can only go so far, and it's surrounded by water. And now it's pouring outside. So
Did they go to the Learing Center?
I guess if you never looked at a map, you wouldn't be able to tell, because of course the media only shows the fire, and they show you the fire and everything's burning up and everything. But in any event,
All right.
we are good. So you were saying,
Okay.
I'm just checking the different feeds.
Yeah, we were talking about Karen Bass, and you were going into letting me know that Ashley's video got removed or was not allowed to upload. That was censorship for sure. Yes.
They don't like you saying certain things. I guess in that video that he put out, she got hit in the face with a tomato.
Tomato?
Yeah. And they talked about needles on the ground and everything. No, don't. Our fifis might get hurt if people actually talk the truth. And so it's absolutely crazy.
Well, she's gonna have her fifis heard a lot more in the next couple months. Trust me. Well, actually, it's another month. I think the vote is in June.
Yeah, but I saw something on X, and I didn't realize this until I read it, and I'm like, well, why don't we all go to California and vote for Spencer Pratt? Pratt. And when I read it, I was like, what do you mean? I don't live in
You
California.
can.
It's not like they check your ID.
It doesn't matter, right? And Barry, you could vote 50,000 times.
Just keep hitting the button. I
Do you have
didn't
any
think about it.
relatives that expired that maybe they could vote too? You know, put that I voted sticker on the tombstone.
And you know what else is another fraudulent thing that, and anybody with a brain can see through it. This whole thing about Mondami just magically balanced the budget in New York City, and they're all heralding it. And the state gave him like $8 billion. That's the only way it worked out, but nobody wants to report the punchline of it. Hey, we're balanced right now. And he took the opportunity to go out there and make some stupid video when the reason behind it is because, they gave state money to this idiot. Absolutely crazy.
You gotta love gaslighting.
All right, so
All right.
if JD Vance is on time, I'm looking to see the feeds. If he's on time, he's supposed to come out at 2:00. I've got some other stuff I can talk about here for a little bit. Just to let you guys know again, tonight, 9:30, we'll take the President Trump's. Let me just tell you what's getting ready to happen. At 10 o'clock, if you're awake, President Trump gets a official state greeting with Xi Jinping. And then at 10:15, he has a meeting with him. When they do the meetings like they do in the Oval Office, they'll do it someplace over there. And, they'll talk about what they're going to be doing.
Awesome.
I'm looking at the television in front of me, and I just want to verify because I'm like, what happened in the last 10 minutes is maybe people are realizing, yep, the S&P just hit another record. It says the S&P just hit another record driven by tech alone. S&P is up to 74.45.
45. Yeah, it went up 45 points right now. Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They know.
Prosperity. Ka-ching.
They're starting to understand where this is going. That's the thing.
It.
All right, so let me do this. I've got
see you soon.
All right, let me jump into this real quick.
So Tuesday, especially in Indiana, showed that the president still has juice, still has a lot of influence, at least in Indiana.
Yeah.
So
as Indiana goes, so goes the nation when it comes to Republican voters and Donald John Trump. He absolutely still has the juice. And when you're a Republican and you go against Trump, you get voted off the island. I always love Survivor. And in this particular case, what we saw in Indiana was you go, adios, amigos, goodbye.
All right. So I played that last week and I wanted to show it to you again because the fact that CNN is talking about it or talked about it last week and continues to talk about it now is something that you can begin paying attention to. I saw the other day that Mike Pence came out and made a speech, and he was talking trash again, like this guy has any political capital whatsoever. And at this point, the only thing it seems like they can hold on President Trump is gas prices. There's nothing else. I don't see anything else where the Democrats can or the rhinos can look to hold President Trump's feet to the fire. And they're making a big deal out of something that they took out of context completely yesterday when they said President Trump said he doesn't care about the average man and woman. And that's not what he said. But that shows you the depths of how they're trying to claw against the chalkboard at this point because they have absolutely nothing. So I put together a little top 10, not just basically all libtards, but 10 stories I'd like you guys to take a look at.
Here's the big finish. 10 stories that you just gotta hear. Number 10.
For Ukraine. So far, your department has not spent a dime of that $400 million, despite repeated follow-up requests from the chairman and myself.
All right, so I want to stop Chris Coons right there. He's mad because Pete Hegseth has not spent $400 million in Ukraine. You got to give Ukraine the money. $400 million of it needs to go to Ukraine. If that's the case, that you're forcing him to spend $400 million on Ukraine, why are you bitching about the reflecting pool? That and the ballroom. You don't want us spending money in America, but you do want us spending money in Ukraine. But that's not the important thing, he says, that I want you to listen to. Listen to how he describes that $400 million.
In a call just last week, your staff indicated we will see a spend plan for those funds this week. Will you commit to spending those $400 million for weapons for Ukraine? And when will we receive your department's spend plan?
I appreciate that question. The $400 million for European capacity building has been released from the Secretary of War's office, and we'll work with EUCOM to make sure they spend it accordingly and properly, which we have all faith that they will.
Mr. Secretary, when will this subcommittee get the associated spend plan for the $400 million?
Yeah, I mean, we will work with your committee to make sure that the spend plan as allocated, I want to make sure EUCOM is fully informed in how they want to spend this. They're the closest to the problem set. And so working with them to ensure that you have the spend plan, we'll work with you.
Mr. Secretary, thank you, but it's May, and this has been the law since January, and you or your representatives have been asked this repeatedly on a bipartisan basis by members of this committee, and I think dragging our feet on this small investment in Ukraine's defense.
Wait. Did you just say $400 million is a small investment, but you're losing your mind over the reflecting pool and the ballroom? Does that make sense to anybody, that you would be completely going nuts over this small $400 million that ain't yours, needs to be sent to Ukraine? But you're complaining about a dime being spent here. Don't spend a dime. Trump shouldn't buy a hammer. Nothing. It's incredible.
Sends exactly the wrong signal to Putin at a time when the contest for freedom has its front lines in Ukraine.
Number 9.
Whose freedom? I'm free. You're free. What the hell is he talking about? They want war. They want conflict. Except in Iran, they don't want it, but they want us to keep funding the war in Ukraine. But they don't think people see these things. That's what it drives me crazy, is we know they want to spend that money there. Got to wonder why they want to spend that money there.
We get you, but what gets you? What gets me is this lie that they care about children. They seem to care about white children. But like when they say more Trump babies, what does that mean? Okay, I'm just asking the question. And I would like to just remind people that this administration dismantled USAID, which helped children around the world. They cut $13 billion in foreign aid, resulting in an estimated 500,000 children dying.
You see where they're going here? I put those two back to back because as long as we're spending money elsewhere, the Democrats and libtards are absolutely fine. I can't believe we stopped spending $13 billion on Somalians or something in Uganda. We're not spending the $13 billion giving it out to the kids. And because you, America, are not giving these people their gazillions of dollars, you're making people die. And I've said this many times. If you got a flag and you're a sovereign country and you can't take care of your own people, how the hell is it our responsibility? Why? This is why they hate America first. We got just a small amount, $400 million to Ukraine. How much would $400 million help Americans? How much would $13 billion help Americans? And in just these two stories, you can see the hypocrisy of the Democrats. Why are we even talking about Ukraine? How are you even trying to equate that Ukraine is the center of peace? No, we're not there. They are way over there, and it doesn't affect us at all. I'm sorry for the kids. I truly am sorry that there are people with kids, and these kids are dying in some dirt, hellhole infested country halfway around the world. Hey, Joy, go out the studio and drive downtown. get in your private jet, I don't know, go to Detroit. Rent a taxi or an Uber and go to Cleveland. Get out of there, drive to Baltimore. There's kids hungry all across America. But we're supposed to feel bad because we're not spending billions in some country halfway around the world run by dictators and warlords that you have no idea if those kids are dying or not. I don't think you're over there counting. Where's your data coming from? But you just heard the fiscally crazy libtards crying about a pool being painted, and they're over there, can't wait to say why you're not spending money on the poor kids in, Uganda.
And 4.5 million children under 5 could die by 2030 due to largely preventable diseases like pneumonia, diarrhea, HIV, malaria, and tuberculosis. So don't tell me you care about children.
No, I care a lot about children. I think every single one of you watching, I think everyone in her audience cares about children. However, and there's always got to be a however to bridge this, we care about American children first. I used the analogy before that you've heard every time you take a plane ride, and the stewardess says, put your mask on first before you help others. If you got a kid with you, make sure you can breathe so you can help the kids sitting next to you. Because we don't want you helping the kid and then passing out yourself, because then you're no help to anybody. So how about you have a president now who's like, we're going to put the mask, you guys love masks, we're going to put the mask on America first, then we'll worry about other people. After all, it is our money. And I'm thinking the incongruity of what I'm seeing on television, and again, this is just more propaganda for the suckers that watch this stuff, is we care more. If you don't care about these other countries, then it equals that you don't care about kids, when it's completely wrong. Go up into Appalachia. There's a whole lot of kids that need some help. But no, they want us looking at some Biafran kid with a big belly who can't eat, dirt cookies.
Only care about these children that you call Trump children.
But it is accessible to any American.
But let's look at the overall.
My child's not a Trump child.
Notice how at that point, she's like, anybody can get the Trump, kids' accounts. And she didn't want to hear that. They all start bickering because at that point she realized she got called. What do you mean? I don't care that it's available to all the white kids. Well, it's available to black kids as well. Don't want to hear it.
I'm looking at the overall picture of this administration. Stop BSing me, okay?
Happens every single time. I personally experienced it over and over and over. Once you confront them with facts, once you confront them about their propaganda, even if it's just happened to be another woman sitting on the View platform there, they completely fold. Just like the black guy I showed you yesterday who called Kevin Lear a dick, this is what they do. Don't BS me. Okay. I got it. You don't even want to know, do you? Just go ahead. Keep going.
That's all. Go ahead.
I'll just quickly say, because I think everyone's making great points, I think two things can be true at the same time. I think that the intent can be questioned behind these new Trump policies. There was no acknowledgement of the black maternal mortality crisis, because black women die at a much higher rate than any other demographic. Than any other.
What does that have to do with Trump accounts? We're not talking about mortality rates. We're talking about getting the kids who get born the opportunity to, grow prosperously. We weren't talking about that. It doesn't even fit your argument. We're talking about Trump accounts. And she's talking about black mortality rates.
Demographic, and he doesn't seem to be, this administration is not concerned about that. I think it's true that he wants Trump babies, which implies he wants American-born white children. The
only reason I show this stuff, because I know so many of you are like, why do we keep showing this stuff, is because this is what we are combating. We are looking at people who are doing their darndest to convince people things are so bad, Trump is so bad, MAGA is so bad. It is generating hate towards us. You know, I was speaking to, I wonder if she's watching. I was speaking to Ashley this morning, and I go, I know I live in a different world down here in South Florida, but what are people saying up in your neck of the woods? You live in, outside of Raleigh. What are people saying up there? She's like, yeah, they're saying, gas prices are high, and they're saying that housing prices are high. I'm like, okay, and I always wonder what people on the second part of that question. The second part of the question is, what are you doing about it? And most people have no answer to that question. Well, gas prices are so high. Okay, what are you doing about it? And they're stuck. You can ask your friends, family members, coworkers, if they start complaining, what are you doing about it? If your house is on fire, you either call 911 or get a hose. You don't just sit there and go, my house is on fire. No, you have to do something. And so here we are, February 28th, this thing with Iran begins, and now we're at May 13th, and people are still saying it's high. What have you done since February 28th? Very simple question I ask people, and I watch them blink. Hey, housing prices are too high. All right, what are you doing about it? The problem is we've been coddled, and they are doing this and they are saying this because they want people to think the government needs to have the solution, which is, to me, completely insane. The government doesn't need the solution to solve your problems. And I know I pissed off some people by even saying that. The government needs to give you the opportunity to solve your problems. See the difference there? What I mean by that is gas prices are too high. Is there anything you can be personally doing to augment or supplement your income during this time period? Anything? Got an eBay store? Going out, and it's not wintertime, but seeding or mowing someone's lawn, doing anything? And I don't understand when people say stuff like, I just accept that there's a problem. I come from a different world where if a problem is presented, you try to find a reason to get around it. If somebody said to me, hey, gas price is too high where you are? Nope. What do you mean? Well, if they were too high, I would do a couple extra shows. The noise you're hearing is they're getting ready for JD Vance. And that was the room that Ashley and I were in. It's a beautiful room here. Let me just show you this real quick. That's where JD Vance is getting ready to come out any second. But you get my point.
That may be
toddler white nationalists.
That may be part of the intent. But as someone who also struggled with infertility, Manny and I went through our entire life savings to have our children. There was no insurance. We were fortunate enough to have a home that his parents gave us a down payment for, and we borrowed against our entire home and lost and our entire savings to have our two beautiful children. And so the fact that this is something like this is available, where you do have help with IVF, that you do have help with the drugs, the IVF drugs, I think is a win. There's so much to criticize Donald Trump for, especially his racism and his xenophobia and his misogyny, yes. But these particular things where you have an account, a Trump account, where your children can have $200,000 when they're 18 years old, and the help with infertility, which is also a crisis in this country, I think you call a thing, and I think these are good policies.
I think.
I'm sorry. Did the lady on The View just say that Trump's policies were good? Did she actually just compliment, even though she tried to denigrate him? Did she really just salute him with the infertility program? I'll take it.
Number 8.
But right now, it's all we got. And we got to band together, and we got to fight together, and we've got to demonstrate that we're not going back. We're not going back. There will be no second coming of Jim Crow. There will be no second coming of Reconstruction. There will be no second coming of taking away the rights that we fought for, that we died for. But that only happens when we are informed, prepared, mobilized, and we vote.
Okay, the reason I showed that, because I said I wasn't going to talk about the whole craziness with their stuff anymore, is because the three things he said there at the end, being informed. Number one, if the first thing that you think can combat President Trump is being informed, then why don't you truly inform people? Because you don't mean it. That's the entire problem with the Black community. They are completely uninformed, not even misinformed, uninformed. They have no idea what is going on. They look to these people to tell them, to feed them, to dole them out like birds in a nest. The information is everywhere. It was funny this afternoon or this morning, I put up a post and I said, if you don't think the Trump economy is working, then you probably don't know what an opportunity zone is or what Section 8 rental rates are in your area. Why? Because you're not informed. When I was talking to you about, the whole thing I talked with Ashley, is one of the reasons I think we've really turned a corner in terms of personal prosperity is I actually listen to what President Trump says. I voted for him 3 times, so the trust is pretty much there. And I listen as he talks. I don't get mad. I don't think he's a racist, a homophobe, xenophobe. Let me listen to the most powerful man in the world, and let me just dabble. Let me see if I can get those breadcrumbs. Let me see if I can get myself informed. Oh, what did he say? Oh, better look that up. Better look that up. As soon as it comes out of his mouth, I don't need the media to tell me what he says. Let me look up what he says. When I went to Washington and Scott Turner and some of the other people were telling me what the plans were, and I came back and told you. And Scott Turner said, opportunity zone, Section 8, verifications, blah, blah, blah. And I went, okay, so you got a major push with this, right? Yeah. FHA? Oh, yeah, we're pushing out all kinds of FHA mortgages. And I'm thinking, when people say there's no ability to buy a home, they're uninformed. I realize at this point, a lot of people's personal situations are because they're uninformed, not misinformed, not overinformed, uninformed. Every single person that says I can't buy a house, I've asked them, you know what the FHA plan is? You don't know. You don't know. People Black in the opportunity zone, in the hood. This is an opportunity zone right here in Delray, right? Right in Delray Beach, there's this giant opportunity zone. What's that? You're uninformed. You can't even take advantage of the stuff that you were hoping President Trump could show you. Somebody emailed me responded to my post and said, can you give me a map of opportunity zones across the country? Like, here it is. It's right there. It's published. How many of you in this chat have ever said, let me look up where the opportunity zones are? What is an opportunity zone? What can I do in an opportunity zone? How do I get funded in an opportunity zone? If you can't answer those questions, you're uninformed. So when they say stuff like, quote, the rich get richer, I love that one. Maybe it's because they've got more information than you do. And that's a very hard thing to say to people. I love saying it to people. I don't say it that way. Hey, did you hear about what's going on up in Delray? No. Oh, they got an opportunity zone up there where they're doing all kinds of funding and development. And they look at you sideways. And what's the first thing people say? Well, I don't have any money for that. What do you mean? Well, I don't have any experience doing that. What do you mean? You can get money and you can get experience. It's walking around you. Think about it. If you live in a rental apartment right now, let's say you live in a rental. Somebody you pay rent to every single month is an opportunity instead of a liability. Liability means you're putting out money. What about the other side of the coin? Hey, how many properties do you own? Oh, I got 5. Really? How do you do it? See, everybody, they're the first of the month. Oh, let me pay my rent. Have you ever sat down and talked to your landlord? Have you ever said, you know what? Can we shoot the breeze here? Yeah. What do you do? Well, I'm a lawyer. How many properties do you own? 6. This is a true story. Robin and I rented a property and found out that the guy who owned it, his father-in-law, was a lawyer. And when it was time to pay the rent, they sent us the information. I looked on it and went, let me look at this address. It was a legal office. I'm like, is your father-in-law an attorney? Yeah. Tell him I want to bring the rent to his office next month. What? I'm going to drive to Aventura, Florida, and I'm going to bring the rent to his office. I want to shake his hand and look him in the eye. And I'm like, how you doing? I'm living here. I'm friends with your son-in-law. I just wanted to shake your hand. True story. And I go, wow, do you do anything else with real estate? Yeah, I'm always looking to. I'm looking at the models on his desk and what he was doing and how he was working with the county. I'm sitting in the office. I'm listening to the conversations. And I had one simple question for him. Are you looking to do any more deals? And it was literally that simple. Yeah, of course. I knew the answer because anybody involved in it wants more. Are you looking to do any more deals? Yeah. What are your criteria? Okay, and here's my criteria. How much? Where do you want to take it? All right, thank you. Went home, found him a deal, sent him the information. 3 weeks later, bought another one. True story. Guy wired in $600,000 cash and closed on the deal. Opportunity zones are just simply effing amazing, and you're just uninformed. I got an email today from somebody. No, I don't want to show the email, but he asked, can you show me what I should do? I've got his property, and blah, 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 blah. And, oh, that's him.
Good to see you all. So as you know, the president just landed in China a few hours ago. I always, you may know that because of Secret Service protocols that I don't travel outside of the country with the President of the United States. So on days today, I sometimes feel like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. I walk into the White House and it's very quiet and no one's there, and it takes me a second to realize exactly what's going on. But we've got a very big announcement today, actually a number of big announcements, and looking forward to hearing from Andrew and Dr. Oz and Kim about that. But let me just say that we've been hard at work over the last several months trying to make sure that we take care of the people's money and trying to make sure that the services that exist for the betterment of our fellow citizens, whether they're low-income kids who need access to food resources, whether they're low-income families who need access to medical benefits, that those programs are protected for the people who actually need them, that they don't exist to enrich fraudsters, but they exist for the American people for whom Congress has said they're entitled. And that's exactly what this fraud task force is about. One of the things that I thought going into it, but that I've learned about fraud, is that it always has 2 fundamental victims. The first victim is the American taxpayer, who is generously paid into these programs in an effort to give their fellow citizens a leg up. But it also has as its victims the people who are meant to benefit from these programs, who are not able to benefit, or maybe are benefiting less because of what a disaster some of the fraud has wrought in these programs. And let me just give you a few concrete examples of what we're worried about, of what we're targeting, and also what we're going to do to solve some of these problems. So first, we're announcing that the federal government is deferring $1.3 billion in Medicaid reimbursements from the state of California. And the simple reason is because the state of California has not taken fraud very seriously, and because of that, we see a lot of the consequences that I just referenced. And again, let me highlight the fact that this really is 2 separate victims. So there are California taxpayers and American taxpayers who are being defrauded because California isn't taking its program seriously. But also you have people who've been prescribed medications that they don't even need. Sometimes they've had drugs put into their bodies that they don't need because fraudsters have actually encouraged false prescriptions and false administration of medications. So think about this. You're just a person trying to go see a doctor. You assume that your doctor is doing the right thing, but these fraudulent healthcare providers are getting rich by giving people medications they don't even need. It's a defrauding of the American taxpayer, but it's a violation of the trust that should exist between every American and the people who prescribe the medications. That's one thing that we're targeting, and this is why we're taking this action, is because we want California to get serious about this fraud. The second thing I want to talk about, and it requires a little bit of background explanation, is that we are going to very aggressively encourage the states to take Medicare fraud more seriously. So I think a lot of you understand, but for those of you watching at home who don't appreciate this, the Medicaid system that exists in the United States is really 50 separate systems. The federal government pays most of the Medicaid money, but then each of the individual states actually administers the Medicaid program. Now, we have red states and blue states that go after fraud aggressively, but we also unfortunately have some states, mostly blue states unfortunately, that do not take Medicaid fraud very seriously. So you have what's called Medicaid Fraud Control Units, or MFCUs. These Medicaid fraud, these anti-fraud units within the Medicaid program, we generously, meaning the federal government generously gives these fraud control units many, many billions of dollars across the United States of America so that they can take Medicaid fraud seriously. But let me just give you an example to highlight how absurd some of these Medicaid fraud programs are, because they're not actually being used at all. This is a tool. This is a tool that we want the states to use, but unfortunately, a lot of states aren't using these tools at all. Let me highlight this with just a couple of separate statistics. So, the Hawaii Medicaid program has received billions and billions of dollars from the federal taxpayers. And of course, Hawaii taxpayers have paid in a lot of money into this program over the last years as well. Guess how many convictions or indictments has Hawaii had over the last few years in its Medicaid fraud program? The answer is 0. Not a single indictment, not a single conviction, because the administrators of the Hawaii program just don't take it seriously. They don't think that fraud is a big enough problem. They don't care about protecting resources. They don't care about protecting that Medicaid program. So what does that mean? That means that if you're committing fraud in Medicaid in Hawaii, at least up until now, hopefully now they're going to take it seriously, you have had effectively free reign from the government of Hawaii to commit as much fraud as you want. That is a complete disgrace. In New York, which does a little bit better, but not by much, New York has had 9 indictments over the last year. 9 indictments. That's a $100 billion Medicaid program just in New York, and you've had 9 indictments. Indiana, which has about a third of the population of the state of New York, has had more than 4 times as many indictments over the same period. So does anybody here seriously think that the good people of Indiana are 12 times more likely to commit fraud than the people of New York? No, of course not. That's absurd. What is happening is that the leadership in New York are just not taking the fraud issue seriously. They're not using these anti-fraud control units to actually investigate and indict the fraud. So what are we going to do to fix that? Today, we are sending across 50 Medicaid programs, we are sending letters that will require them to show that they are effectively and aggressively prosecuting Medicaid fraud in their states. And if they do not aggressively prosecute Medicaid fraud, we are going to turn off the money that goes to these anti-fraud units. And I want to say a couple things about this. You may think, obviously, this is a Republican administration. We're all proud Republicans up here. You may think that this is purely a red state or blue state issue. That's actually not true. We see Medicaid fraud issues in Ohio, the state that I used to represent in the United States Senate. We also see Medicaid fraud issues in a state like Maryland, which is obviously a very blue state. But both Ohio and Maryland have worked with us to take this issue seriously. They've worked with the guys behind me. They've worked with our entire team to make sure that they take fraud seriously. Again, this does not have to be a red state or a blue state issue. This is just basic good government. However, states like California, states like Hawaii, states like New York have completely not taken the fraud issue seriously in the Medicaid program. And so for those states that refuse to get serious about fraud, we are going to turn off that anti-fraud money. And if we continue to find problems, we can turn off other resources within their state Medicaid programs as well. Our goal here is not to do that. We don't want to turn off any money. What we want to do is ensure that people are taking fraud seriously. We want to protect Medicaid. We want to protect Medicare, but we can't do that if the states that are administering those programs are allowing those programs to be fleeced by fraudsters. So we encourage, whether it's California or New York or Maryland or Ohio, we encourage people to work with us. We want to help you use technology and other tools to get rid of the fraud, to get to the root of the fraud. We want to help you. But we can only help these state programs if those state programs are willing to help themselves. So these letters are the first step, the first effort to try to force these states to get serious about prosecuting fraud, and that's exactly what we're doing. Let me just talk about one final issue here. We see a lot of fraud in the home health care and in the hospice care system. I think Dr. Oz will probably talk a little bit more about that, but again, you have to appreciate that this fraud issue is fundamentally theft from the taxpayer, but also theft from people who need these programs. Just last month, a California psychotherapist, a woman who had spent 40 years treating patients, helping people deal with problems, found out that her Medicare program had been turned off, that she did not have access to the resources that she had been paying into for her entire life. Why? Because a fraudster had stolen her identity and signed her up for health care services that she didn't need, and so she had been turned off of the healthcare services that she did need. This happens way too much in the United States of America, and it happens because until recently, we did not have a government or an administration that actually took the fraud program and took anti-fraud prevention seriously. So let me just close with one final observation here. First of all, why are we doing this now? Why weren't we doing this 2 years ago? And the simple answer is because we didn't have a president and we didn't have an administration who took fraud seriously. So I want to thank the President of the United States, though I know he's busy in China. All of these efforts, all of these things that we're finding are because we have a president who has told us, take the fraud issue seriously, get to the root of it, and turn off the money when we find out that money is going to fraudsters. So that's exactly what we're doing. But I just want to say that for me, and I think for a lot of people who are involved in this effort, this is very personal. Because I'm not just the Vice President of the United States. I come from a family, and I grew up in a family where we sometimes benefited from these programs. The generosity of the American people is one of the most amazing things about our country. I think all of us, of course, just passed tax day. None of us like paying our taxes, but we do it. And why do we do it? Because we know that it goes to give a bite to a low-income family that can't afford food. We know that it goes to pay the military who keep us safe. We know that it goes to some essential services. But that trust in our government, that trust in our institution, it depends on us taking that trust seriously. How long are people going to pay into programs if they know that money doesn't go to a low-income kid who needs health care, but that money goes into a fraudster getting rich? This doesn't work, and this doesn't make sense unless we take fraud seriously. So I'm proud to be part of an effort in our government. I'm proud to lead the effort in our government to finally take fraud seriously. We want to protect these programs for the kids and the families who need them. We want to ensure that the American taxpayer isn't getting fleeced. And I'd say just a few months into it, gentlemen, we have done a very, very good job. Let's keep it up. So let me turn it over now to Andrew Ferguson, who's the Executive Director of our Anti-Fraud Task Force. Andrew has done an amazing job, but I have to give a special shout out, not just because she's my fellow Ohioan, to Kim, who has probably found more fraud and has saved the American taxpayer more money than any single official within the government over the last 3 months. Kim, you have been an all-star. We're proud to have you on the team. Thank you, guys.
Well, I couldn't have put it better than the Vice President did. The only reason that what happened today happened is because President Donald Trump took this issue seriously that has plagued this country for decades and is committed to an all-of-government approach. And so to him is to who the credit goes. But the Vice President deserves tremendous credit here. It's hard to get the whole machinery of government moving. You need someone with the Vice President's abilities, with his gravitas, and with his determination to drive at these issues. That's the other reason we're here today. And while I'm at it, I want to thank Dr. Oz and Kim Brandt. A lot of the fraud problems are at HHS, and these two have committed countless hours, night and day, their staffs, their resources to getting at these problems and fixing it, and where the states are unwilling to do their jobs and fix these problems, Dr. Oz and Kim have stepped up to take care of it. He's not up here today, but I want to thank March Bell as well. He's the Inspector General of HHS. A lot of the work we're going to have to do to get the states back in line and stopping fraud is going to go through March's office. You'll see his signature on the letter that went to the state Medicaid control units today. There's going to be a lot of work happening in the IG's office, and we're really pleased to partner with him. It's a shame we have to be up here at all, and with all due respect to the press, with this room full of reporters. It should not have taken a brave kid with a cell phone camera to point the American people at this issue. This is the result of decades of corruption, particularly in blue states like Hawaii, like the vice president was just explaining, California, Minnesota, and New York, that have taken tens of billions of dollars to pay lawyers to go after Medicaid fraud that just simply have not done it at all. That's the whole point of these programs. If we have these cooperative federalism programs, we love federalism, we want to partner with states, we love subsidiarity, but if the states are going to participate in this, they have to protect their own citizens when they get access to these dollars. And not only are these dollars supposed to go to fight Medicaid fraud, I want to shine a light on the real human dimension of the complete negligence and malfeasance of some of these states here. One of the things they are obliged by law to do is stop elder abuse. That is one of the express commands that Medicaid fraud control units are given, is you are supposed to police Medicaid abuse and elder abuse in the Medicare system too, where so many of America's elderly citizens receive care. And so when the states just take this money and turn it into a jobs program for blue state lawyers, they are effectively participating in the elder abuse in those states, because the American people turned over their money to these state programs to protect their parents and their grandparents from elder abuse. And if you aren't doing it, you are effectively participating in that process. The vice president highlighted this problem that we have in Medicaid, which is if a fraudster takes your identity, signs you up for benefits, when you go to try to get the actual benefits you need, you can be denied them. This is a problem we have found all over the federal government in benefits programs. I mean, imagine, we have examples of this. A mother on SNAP benefits going to the grocery store and trying to scan her EBT card to get groceries for her children, and some gang somewhere in California took her identity, maxed out her EBT card, and so her children are going to go hungry because of fraud that no one in the states is policing. And that is why what we are doing today is so important. The states should be our partners with this. We want to partner with the states, but what we aren't going to do as stewards of the American taxpayer dollar is to send those dollars, billions of them, to the states to line the pockets of state attorneys general who don't want to participate in protecting our benefits programs so that the people who really need them, the people that the American people have agreed to part with their hard-earned dollars to help, to defend, to protect, and to get through hard times, actually get the money. And if the states don't want to cooperate, for the first time, HHS, the Fraud Task Force, the Vice President, and the rest of the federal government are going to tell you, cooperate or lose your funds, and we will do the job for you. Because at the end of the day, if the states won't protect American citizens, the President of the United States and the Vice President will. And that is why I am so honored to be able to participate in this process. Because this is ultimately about making sure not only that we aren't stolen from as taxpayers, but the American people who are entitled to this. For Medicaid and for Medicare, people who have paid into these programs their entire lives actually get the benefits that they are entitled to. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Oz to talk about all of the efforts at HHS.
Thank you, Andrew. Mr. Vice President, thank you for the leadership, the spirited desire to harness a group of stallions. They're back there, by the way, if you want to see the men and women who are leading the task force. They're at the back of the room, but they've done all the work that allowed us to come up here. In February, we had the largest anti-fraud announcement from CMS the day after the State of the Union address, in which the President created this task force and appointed the Vice President to lead it. Today's effort is larger. It's much larger. And there's a reason for that. Half of the fraud, we believe, in the federal government could be coming out of healthcare services. We're a large rhino that can be stabbed effortlessly by foreign governments, like syndicated criminal entities and smaller time operators who can take advantage of the system with, as Andrew pointed out, as little as a Medicare beneficiary number, which is basically a credit card, to defraud this system. Unfortunately, that results in about $100 billion of estimated theft just from Medicare and Medicaid. That, just to put it in the context of affordability, which is a very important subtext of this discussion, we would be able to double the life expectancy of the Medicare Trust Fund if we could deal with the fraud issues just in Medicare. So anyone who's out there working their tail off, hoping Medicare will be there with them and for them, and we know many young Americans don't think that's going to be the case, it will be the case. If we take the fraud out, it'll be there for you and your children as well. And stopping this as a means of extending the Medicare Trust Fund is a noble purpose, but as has been pointed out by the Vice President and Mr. Ferguson, it is about the human costs. Because if these fraudsters are willing to take your money, they will definitely steal your life and take your health along the way. So let's transition to the 5 major actions. I'm going to go through them in order. I'll share them with Kim, who her nickname is Killer Kim. Mr. Vice President, you'll learn why in a second. She is unstoppable, and you want federal employees like Kim out there like bulldogs going after this fraud. It's right there for us to find. And if we have partnership with the states, it'll help a lot. First,
we need a better nickname for her if she's going to work in healthcare.
She's a Buckeye. She's a Buckeye, so I gave her a choice. Is that a typical name in Ohio?
I don't know.
Okay. California Medicaid deferral that the Vice President mentioned is $1.34 billion. Their submissions of Medicare records and the backup estimates are generating major red flags for us. And we have looked carefully at these records. We are allowed to audit, looking back for a quarter. Dan Brillman Capri-Snap, who lead the Medicaid program, spearheaded this effort with a great team. We've discovered $630 million in billing from the folks who are egregiously the top 5% of outliers in billing. This is numbers so big you can't imagine anyone billing for these numbers of patients and that much for each patient. And so we're asking California to clarify for us how it got there. Second big area of observation is when you bill within a state, you should be comparable to the states around you. But in California, that's not been the case. In California, the growth of spending in personal care services, in-home services, is twice the rate of the average of the rest of the country. Let me say that again. The rest of the country is at one number. California is twice that number in its growth rate. We estimate there's $500 million that could be at risk, taken from federal taxpayers. That means people in New Mexico, which is a blue state, are paying extra taxes so that California can get away with something that they can't defend. So there's $500 million there we're going to defer till they can show us more convincingly why that's the case. And there's another $200 million that we're stopping in questionable expenditures. Much of that is linked to immigration-related costs. You know, folks who are undocumented, and we're not sure why we're paying for this. And as you know from the Working Families Tax Cut legislation, which I'm going to emphasize is a program that saved Medicaid. The President and Congress saved Medicaid with that bill. That became legislation. There's another $200 million at risk there. Added together, $1.34 billion. It's the largest deferral we've ever made. We're making it for a good reason. We'd like the state to at least come to the table and explain to us how these outlier payments have been generated. Second major issue is home health care fraud and hospice fraud. So let's just clear this up. Hospice, end of life, designed 40 years ago, a beautiful program that's designed to take care of you because you have cancer and you're not going to survive more than 6 months. To do that, the federal government says we're going to trade your Medicare benefit for hospice benefit. So you give up Medicare, because why would you want to have coverage for things you're never going to use? You're dying. You want to die with dignity and grace. It's a beautiful program. Unfortunately, in California and other states, fraudsters have stolen your Medicare number, taken it, and given you hospice you didn't want, which means if you get sick and go to the ER, you're not getting care. And you can't even find out what happened because you weren't in the mix of this. There have been a lot of people complaining about this over the years, including people that should have been listened to, like the Auditor General of California, who in 2022 raised this issue to the current governor, and for some reason they have not taken action. Unfortunately, we have a reality that, again, we got to face. A third of all hospices, a third of all these programs in the entire country are in Los Angeles. Ask yourself, how is that possible? It's not. There are not that many people dying in Los Angeles. We're not talking about California, just Los Angeles. So Kim and the team, with Janina Ugo and a bunch of other great folks, went through the list of all the people, and we believe that at least half of the hospices in the entire area around Los Angeles are fraudulent. And today we announce 800 of those hospices have been suspended. That's getting us, close to where we think we should be. 800 hospices that last year charged the federal taxpayer $1.4 billion will no longer be paid. Now, Mr. Vice President, if your core business was shut down by the federal government, would you call?
Yes.
You would call. Crickets. We have less than 20 who have complained. We're not even sure those are legitimate. 800 hospices shut down, and we're not hearing much. It's crickets out there. So we believe we're on the right path here. Next is a nationwide moratorium on all new hospice and home health care. Why is that possible? Because when we squeeze the balloon in California and slow their growth of hospice and now take away 800, the payments to 800 hospices, we know what those fraudsters do. They move to nearby Nevada. Next door, Nevada has a 7-fold increase in hospice already. Arizona, Texas, they're moving across the country. So we've today announcing a moratorium nationally. There will be no new hospices or home health care open in this country. If you have the program now, you can keep it. You can go to ones that already exist. We're not taking away any services, but there will be no new licenses granted until we can figure out a better way of working across government. Let me highlight this, because what Andrew is leading and the Vice President are sharing with this task force, it's very simple. You have CMS, you have OIG, March Bell sitting over there. You have the Department of Justice, you have the FBI, you have Treasury. You put those things together, you make a powerful fist. And that's the fist we're going to punch through bureaucracies and realities that are stopping our ability to protect the American people. I'm going to leave you one last thought, and then I'm going to ask Kim to cover some of the issues around the Mafukos and the Medicaid war room that she's creating. It is a reality that states are all over the place in their desire to partner with the Vice President in this task force. There was a letter sent out 2 weeks ago asking every single state to respond within 10 days to whether or not they would be willing to revalidate their providers. What that means is if you're providing home health care services, which are unlicensed people, providing services in undocumented areas that are unverifiable right now in many instances, basically you're having your kids carry the groceries upstairs for you. These are services your family used to provide for you. We asked all the states to work with us to validate if these are legitimate services from legitimate providers. Every single state responded. So contrary to the narrative around red and blue, every state wants to protect their citizens. Some are just more competent or brave enough to actually make those steps. And for some reasons, as you heard today, California has been lax in this endeavor. We hope this wake-up call will be heard loudly across the beautiful state of California, whose people we're trying to protect, sometimes from their own leaders. Kim?
So when we took office a little over a year ago, we were looking at the fraud and abuse issue and saw that it was all pay and chase. We were going after the money after it was already out the door. And so we thought there surely has to be a better way. So we created the Medicare Fraud War Room, where we looked at claims in real time before they were paid so that we could determine, were they legitimate? Were there the outliers that we've heard examples of today? And how could we stop it? Over the past year, since the Medicare War Room started on March 31st of last year, we have stopped over $2 billion from going out the door just by targeting those high-risk providers. Recently, a couple of weeks ago, we've decided to take it a step further, and we're now doing a Medicaid war room. And what's unique about this is it's the first time that we've ever partnered across the board with our law enforcement partners, the HHS OIG, DOJ, the states, the Mafukos, the Medicare Fraud Control Units, all working together for the first time to look at Medicaid claims in real time and be able to determine how we can stop those payments from going out the door, to stop the instances of an 89-year-old woman who had over 5,000 skin substitutes, or to stop the types of things that are just really aberrantly ridiculous. So what we've done is we have data analysts, we have forensic auditors, we have law enforcement people, all coming together in a virtual room. It's not an actual room like you think of like on TV, but they're all in a virtual room where they are looking at this in real time and then making determinations about how we can shut those bad guys down and how we can take action. And what has happened is we are now using our administrative authorities, payment suspensions, overpayments, civil monetary penalties, and the HHS OIG exclusion authority to really be able to take action against these people and make it so that we can hopefully bring that money back where it needs to and never let it go out the door. The key is we want to keep it so that it can provide the services for the people who most need it and who most benefit from it, and stop the bad actors from getting all the benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. So, Dr. Oz, I want to make sure I understand this well. So you're saying that we kicked off 800 fraudulent healthcare providers off of the Medicare system, and not a single one of them called the government and said, hey, you made a mistake.
We've had a handful of calls. We're not sure they're legitimate yet, but it's less than 20 out of 800, and we're auditing them.
Unbelievable. So at least 780 are not even trying to claim that they're not fraudulent. And again, those are businesses that we were giving hundreds of millions, in some cases billions of dollars to, not to provide services, but to make a fraudster rich. It's just completely insane. Drives home the scale and scope of the problem. Okay, we'll take a few questions. I will say the ground rules are, I will take the easy questions. Any hard questions are for Dr. Oz. Yes.
With NBC News. I want to ask you first on the issue of fraud. As you're saying, if the administration is calling to specifically withhold Medicaid payments, why should the people who rely on those payments suffer the consequences for a state's failure to go after bad actors? And I have another question for you.
So I want to be clear here. We're talking about withholding the Medicaid fraud enforcement payments that go to the state bureaucrats. We're not talking about withholding people's benefits. We're talking about turning off the resources that the state government should be using to police fraud. And then instead, we're going to use those resources ourselves because we're actually taking the fraud issue very seriously. But I do think it raises a very important issue. There are going to be some, I'm sure, some politicians who say what you're doing here is harming the Medicaid program. We're trying to save the Medicaid program from dysfunctional state bureaucrats. If you allow hundreds of millions, billions, even more money to go out the door, not to healthcare services for low-income families, but to fraudsters, you eventually are going to destroy the Medicaid program. So this is why we say red state, blue state, this does not need to be a political or a partisan issue. We want to work with you to eliminate fraud and make these programs last longer for the people who truly need them.
Thank you. And can I ask you, Mr. Vice President, when approaching the war with Iran, do you agree with the president's position that Americans' financial situations should not be a consideration in that decision-making process?
Well, I don't think the president said that. I think that's a misrepresentation of what the president said. But look, I agree with the president that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. We're obviously engaged in a very aggressive and very engaged diplomatic process to try to ensure that that doesn't happen. And the president has a lot of options, as he said repeatedly. There are options diplomatically, there are options on the military side. But the fundamental goal here is the president wants to make the world safe, but particularly the American people safe from Iran having a nuclear weapon. And one final point I'll say on that is nuclear proliferation is one of those challenges that people don't realize. It's the biggest threat to America's national security, and it's not obvious until it is. Because what happens if Iran gets a nuclear weapon? Then multiple Gulf Arab countries are going to want to get a nuclear weapon. Then multiple countries from there are going to want to get a nuclear weapon. The goal of preventing nuclear proliferation is probably the single most important thing that we can do to keep our people safe for the long term. It's absolutely a worthy goal. But of course, the president and I and the entire team, we care about the American people's financial situations. It's one of the reasons why we passed the Working Families Tax Cut. It's one of the reasons why we're so focused on fraud. We care about how the American people are doing economically. We've also got a number of other challenges. Of course, the president has to confront all these challenges simultaneously. Yeah.
Edward Lawrence from Fox Business. On fraud, the savings that you find among all of these states, what impact could that have on a federal deficit?
Well, I think it'd have a very big impact, but a lot of it does depend on how well the states work with us. We think we're going to be much more effective if we're working with California as opposed to fighting California over every $1 billion of Medicaid fraud that exists in their system. I mean, there could be tens of billions, hundreds of billions of fraudulent payments within the California system if you count what's going to illegal aliens, if you count what's going to people, fraudulent businesses, if you count what's not going to the people who actually need it, but going to fraudsters. We would find that money a lot easier if California was working with us, which is why we've taken some of these steps. And the letters fundamentally are outreach. We're going to the states and saying, here are the things that we can do to work on this issue together. And of course, if they don't work with us, there are going to be penalties. We don't want to get there. We want to work with these guys. You heard Dr. Oz say this earlier. I've looked at the numbers myself. It's true. If you just deal with the fraud issue, you can prolong the Medicare and Medicaid trust funds well into the future. So it does have a significant budgetary impact, whether that's hundreds of billions of dollars or maybe even more. We're not going to know until we do the work, but we're going to do the work.
Yeah, if I could on China.
Let's do one question from each person. Go ahead. We can do both, you guys. You guys can fight for who goes first.
Sure. Mr. Vice President, Reagan Reese with the Daily Caller. What's your reaction to the alleged home health fraud in Ohio, and why do you think this is happening in a red state? And just a question of clarification. You mentioned that some states aren't cooperating. What does that look like? Are they not responding to your calls? Are they stonewalling you guys? If you could expand on that.
So I'll let Dr. Oz go into the details a little bit, but on the Ohio issue in particular, look, this happens everywhere. We're a big country. Hundreds of billions of dollars goes out the door every single month from the federal government, and inevitably you're going to have people who try to take advantage of it. What bothers me is not that you have a few fraudsters out there. It's that the government hasn't taken seriously pushing it back. You're always going to have bad people. You're always going to have a few bad apples try to take advantage of the system. What's so unique about this country until recently is that we didn't take that seriously. We didn't try to push back against the fraud, and that's what's changed. When I talk about cooperating with these various states, and again, we've had some good cooperation with both red states and blue states, it's very context specific. But for example, let's say that we know we have a number of fraudulent Medicare or Medicaid providers. Working with the federal government to identify who those are, to kick them off the rolls so that when those companies, those fraudulent companies submit a reimbursement, they don't actually get any money in return. Now, sometimes the federal government has a better perspective on that. Sometimes the states do. But that's one example of ensuring that local providers that are fraudulent are not able to get reimbursed or not able to get access to the resources. That's just one example. Dr. Oz, I'm sure you probably have 100 more in that brain of yours.
Very succinctly, Minnesota, which we announced the deferment there when the Vice President and I were in this room several months ago, sued us. And we're trying to get them to wake up to a problem. The amount that we deferred was a small percentage of their rainy day fund. They sued us and sought a temporary restraining order. That's not what a partner does. The judge did not give them a temporary restraining order. We're going to California now in part because we couldn't get them to respond on things that we think they should have taken proactive steps on. If they've been warned for at least 4 years by their own auditor general that there's a massive problem with hospice and they don't deal with it, it pollutes the entire ecosystem. It creates corruption that rots the foundation of who we are. So on the 19th of December, after it had gone through all the different processes, the State Department of Health in California was going to mandate by the first of the year that you cannot have more than one hospice per provider. This is a red flag issue. Why would a doctor need to have 20 hospices? Have one hospice, do it right. They do 20 hospices because they're taking bribes, they're selling their license and their soul. For reasons we don't understand, and I'd love to pose that right here to the state of California, someone very senior in their government pulled down that rule, never let it issue, and we never got help from them. That's why we went out the first week of January to say, what's going on here? And we find out that, as the Vice President mentioned, the Medicare fraud detection units sometimes are not being enabled to do their jobs. These are the kinds of behaviors that people take when they're trying to hide the ball. And the question I'd love to ask the media to opine amongst yourselves, we're debating it as a task force, is do the governors always feel that fraud in Medicaid is a flaw? Or are there sometimes some reasons why it might be a benefit? Might be a feature of the way they're running Medicaid. The same way we had to stop legalized money laundering through state-directed payments and provider taxes and the Working Families Tax Cut legislation, we are concerned that some governors see these programs as jobs programs, and their downstream impact of that resembles political patronage that we're very serious about.
Mr. Vice President, thank you so much. Leonardo Feldman with Newsweek. Can you tell me a little bit about, the president has been toying this idea of a joint ticket between you and Rubio. What do you think about that?
Oh, man. What I think is there are a few topics that I want to talk about less than what office I'm going to run for years down the road when I'm having a good time and trying to do good work in the job that the American people already elected me to do. Look, as I've answered this question probably in any number of ways. I love Marco. I think he's a great Secretary of State. He's become a very, very dear friend. But I think both of us are very much focused on accomplishing the American people's business right now. If I was the American people, there are a few things that I would hate more than a person who's barely been in one office for a year and a half, who's angling for a job 2.5 years down the road. Let's do a good job now. We just got to keep at it. Go ahead. Oh, God.
Just quick, I have a fraud question. This is Kit with CNN. It's not us who are bringing this up. A couple days ago, Trump made this statement to people in the Rose Garden. Why do you think he does that? Do you think it's a little bit of toying with you both over your succession? Why do you think he brings that up? Just number one.
Well, I just don't think it sounds like the President of the United States to have a televised competition for who would succeed him as his apprentice. I just think that's not at all what you would expect the President to do. But no, look, you talk to him, he was fascinated by politics 30 years before he ever ran for office. So I think it's natural for him to, joke around with us a little bit, to play around with the idea. But I can tell you the president is as focused as any of us on making sure we do as good of a job now for the American people.
Can you preview your trip to Maine tomorrow? You said that you're going to combat fraud. What are you going to be announcing? And are you engaging in good faith with the governor there about efforts? She said that she responded to a CMS letter. Just curious if there's any back and forth between you both.
Yeah, there's been some back and forth. We'd love to have a better conversation, a better relationship, and work very deliberately on this question of fraud. And certainly have an open hand, have an open heart in this White House to working with anybody, including the governor of Maine. I'm not going to tell you everything I'm going to say tomorrow in Maine, because if I did that, why would I go to Maine tomorrow? But I'm looking forward to it. It's a beautiful time of year to be in the state of Maine. We're going to campaign a little bit with Paul LePage and talk about the fraud efforts that we have going on, and talk about a few other things as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. This is Elizabeth Mitchell with the Daily Signal. The Fraud Task Force and ICE identified more than 10,000 alleged cases of fraud in the optional practical training program. Some Republicans have been calling for this program to end. In light of this, is the Trump administration looking into changes to this program in light of the fraud?
Sorry, changes to which program in particular?
The optional practical training program.
Yeah, so we're looking into a lot of this stuff, and the fundamental question obviously is we want to save the American people money, but we're also trying to preserve programs that exist for the benefit of the American people. We're also trying to make sure that we do this in a way that's defensible, that's not going to get challenged in a court, or if it does get challenged in a court, where we can defend things. So, Dr. Oz, do you want to say anything about that particular program? We're looking at everything. I will tell you that once a week I get an update from Andrew and from the team on the number of things that we found in the anti-fraud task force, and it's kind of shocking. People, I go on the road and talk to, lot of folks out there. I was in Iowa last week, and one of the most common questions I got was, is the anti-fraud thing, is it hard? And I'm almost confused by the question, because unfortunately, there's so much fraud in the federal government. There was so much that we allowed to accumulate over the 4 years of the Biden administration, and frankly, probably over 40 years of bad American governance. There is so much fraud for us to go after. What we're trying to do is go after the highest value targets and the things that preserve these programs for the American people. Yes, sir.
Record please with the Federalist. Thank you. You said that administrators they don't care, or that they're neglectful with the funding, but does your team think that there are bureaucrats in federal or state governments who are actually complicit in helping fraudsters?
Well, we think it's possible, right? I don't want to prejudge these things, but we've certainly seen reports of, for example, Gavin Newsom in California or Tim Walz in Minnesota getting these reports that there were fraudulent activities happening in their states and then looking the other way. Whether that rises to the level of criminal conduct, I don't know, but we're certainly looking into it, because as much as we care about protecting these programs, we also care about ensuring that federal and state officers aren't violating the law. And if they are violating the law, then of course we have to prosecute them. That's an important part of equal justice under law. So we're looking into this stuff, but I can't commit to it, because unlike the last administration, we tend to only prosecute people when they've actually violated the law, not just because they have the wrong political affiliation. Yeah, go ahead.
Dead Americans on food stamps. I'll do this again. Dead Americans on food stamps, you mentioned the other day, 186,000 dead Americans, to your knowledge, are receiving food stamps. Are you confident that you can get that number down to zero?
Well, I want to be clear. I don't actually think 186,000 dead Americans are receiving food stamps, because that would be impossible. I don't think that we have 186,000 ghosts walking into the grocery store and achieving benefits. I think that we have people who are claiming that they are getting food stamp benefits. They're using the identity of a dead person. So it's very much a living person. It's a living fraudster who's stealing the identity of a dead American. I just want to be very clear about that. But look, we know this is happening. We think that it's costing the American people hundreds of billions of dollars. By the way, another hidden cost of fraud is that it drives up the cost of goods for everybody. Because if you've got hundreds of billions of dollars chasing food that is going to dead Americans, living fraudsters, that's going to raise costs for everybody. So it actually is one of these things that has multiple victims, including the fact that it's driving up the cost of good for other Americans.
And on the
yes,
China
all the way in the
summit,
back.
On the China summit, one question.
No, sorry, man. You got two, I think. I really like your jacket, but still only one question. I'm going to stick to my rule here.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Daniel Baldwin, One American News. You spoke a little bit about states cooperating, and that was a big theme the first time you and Dr. Oz came here and spoke to us about the Minnesota Medicare payments.
Sure.
You referenced Maryland as a blue state that's cooperating. You mentioned red states that were cooperating. Have you guys been successful in putting up any guardrails with states that have cooperated thus far, and what do those guardrails look like?
Well, the biggest guardrail is the one that we announced today, which is that if you have all of this money that's going for Medicare fraud prevention or Medicaid fraud prevention and you're not actually using it, we're going to take that money back and use it with our prosecutors and our investigators to ensure that we're actually looking at fraud. And then what that would do eventually is it would allow us to actually engage in some other enforcement actions. If they're not taking the anti-fraud stuff seriously, then there are some additional steps that we can take beyond that. I think the approach that we've tried to take really has been collaborative. We've tried to identify with the states, here are some examples of some very bad fraud. Here are some things that you can do to fix it. Here are some ways that we're willing to use our resources to help you. And again, most states have been pretty good. There have been a few, unfortunately, very large states that collect a lot of money in federal revenue. And I think a lot of us know why that is.
All right, you've been listening to J.D. Vance, the vice president, delivering a major statement on this administration going after fraud, offering details and numbers backed up with Dr. Oz behind him.
Not sure why they cut it. That's crazy. Give me a second. Let me see if I can find another feed to pick up on it.
Medicaid fraud prevention and you're not actually using it, we're going to take that money back and use it with our prosecutors and our investigators to ensure that we're actually looking at fraud. And then what that would do eventually is it would allow us to actually engage in some other enforcement actions. If they're not taking the anti-fraud stuff seriously, then there are some additional steps that we can take beyond that. I think the approach that we've tried to take really has been collaborative. We've tried to identify with the states, here are some examples of some very bad fraud. Here are some things that you can do to fix it. Here are some ways that we're willing to use our resources to help you. And again, most states have been pretty good. There have been a few, unfortunately, very large states that collect a lot of money in federal revenue. And I think a lot of us know why that is. You have political leadership that doesn't like the idea of cooperating with a Republican administration, even though it's a very common sense, good government principle. I think you have some people who know that a lot of their constituencies, maybe some of their donors are getting rich from fraud. But regardless, red state or blue state, we're going to go after it. We have to. This is so important. We are not going to have a generous country if Americans think that they're paying their taxes not to needy people, but to fraudsters. That's fundamentally what we're trying to fix, is rebuilding America's trust. That when you pay your taxes, when you send money to a program, it's actually going to the people it's supposed to go to. It's a fundamental principle of good governance. It shouldn't be anything Republican or Democrat. It's just good government. Yep. Go ahead.
Taylor with Spectrum, good to see you.
Good to see you.
You've emphasized a lot how you want this not to be partisan, and you're going to look at red and blue states. The president, when he posted about you becoming the fraud czar last month, he wrote, the focus will be everywhere, but primarily in those blue states where crooked Democrat politicians have had a free-for-all. I'm curious, as you guys have been trying to interact with these states, do you worry that the president's remarks like that undercut the efforts for this not to be partisan and that could lead to resistance?
No, I don't worry about that because he's talking about crooked governors. And of course, if you have a crooked governor, they're not going to work with us, and we're going to have to use other tools to ensure that they do. But I think that there are a lot of governors, Democrat and Republican, who recognize that this is a very serious problem, that we're offering resources to try to help solve that problem. And I think a lot of them recognize that, yeah, they've got maybe a few crazy people in very far left states, but most people, most Americans want to solve this problem. And I've actually been gratified by the fact that we've gotten a lot of cooperation from across the political spectrum. One other point about cooperation, we're not there yet, but one of the things we're going to do on the fraud task force is, look, we're learning. We're learning a lot about the way the government operates. I mean, Andrew I almost feel bad for him sometimes because he comes to me once a week and says, here's this bureaucratic hurdle, or here's a wall that I'm running into that I would have never known even existed until we started to take this fraud stuff very seriously. So we've learned a lot over the last 6 months. We are eventually going to realize that there are tools that we do not have, that there are things that we need to do that Congress is going to have to step in and cooperate on us. I think that's going to be a big question of bipartisanship and common sense is when we identify some tools that we need to more fully go after the fraud problem, is Congress willing to play ball, or are they going to fight us every step of the way? I hope they play ball. Partisanship is crazy in this town, but again, this is such a common sense thing that I would hope that everybody would want to protect the American taxpayers' money. Go ahead.
Jennifer Jacobs, CBS News. On Iran, can you tell us where negotiations stand? The president, before he left for Beijing, called the latest proposal unacceptable. So is the U.S. even talking to the Iranians right now, or where are things at this point?
Yeah, so look, obviously these negotiations are very sensitive. I'm not going to tell you everything because we're trying to have a productive conversation. I spent a good amount of time on the phone with both Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff this morning, a number of our friends in the Arab world this morning. Look, I think that we are making progress. The fundamental question is, do we make enough progress that we satisfy the president's red line? And the red line is very simple. He needs to feel confident that we've put a number of protections in place such that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, right? That is the question. Do we meet that threshold or not? I think that we've made a lot of progress since we left Pakistan. I thought we made some progress in Pakistan, but we've made more since then. But that is fundamentally what we're negotiating towards, is we want to be able to look the American people in the eye and say with confidence that you are not going to have to worry about this very, very dangerous regime having access to the most dangerous weapons in the world. That's the goal that we're focused on. Again, there's a lot of ways to accomplish that goal. The president has set us off on the diplomatic pathway for now, and that's what I'm focused on. Yep. We'll do a couple more here.
Thanks a lot. There was pushback from Senate Republicans yesterday in the conference meeting about the cost of the ballroom, which has ballooned to about $1 billion for the security aspect. Is there an IG, either for GSA or the Treasury, who would or should be eyeballing that project? And how do we make sure it doesn't balloon like some of these other government spending building projects?
Well, I'm sure because of the nature of the project, you're going to have inspector generals who look at this, who look at the auditing, who look at the accounting, who make sure that this is done in a good way. I will say the President of the United States is a very good builder. And the reason why this is expensive is not because of the ballroom. The reason this is expensive is because of the security precautions necessary, things that have nothing to do with the ballroom itself, but have to do with the actual security infrastructure on the White House. We saw a couple of weeks ago what can happen when you gather the President of the United States and a number of people who are in the line of succession in the same room. We almost had something very terrible happen. And thanks to the Secret Service and their incredibly quick response, we didn't have a terrible thing happen. But one of the things it's taught us is that we've got to update. And there are things, frankly, I wouldn't even talk about in a public forum. There are parts of the there are parts of our national security, and there are parts of the international sort of world that are very, very dangerous. And the president needs to be protected. The senior officials in our government need to be protected. And that's fundamentally what this is all about, is ensuring that on the White House grounds, we have what's necessary to protect the president, whether he's engaged in a state dinner, which of course is an important part of the president's functions, or whether he's engaged in the day-to-day functions of being president of the United States. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. My question is, what's your message to Americans as the Iran war continues to impact the economy, especially after yesterday's inflation report?
Well, I guess my message to Americans is we know that we have a lot of work to do in order to deliver on the prosperity that the American people deserve. The president is hyper-aware of this. I'm hyper-aware of this. We talk about it all the time. We know that the American people inherited a very bad inflation crisis. Yes, the inflation number last month was not great, but take it back to the May of 2023 in the Biden administration, or take it back to even further. We're not seeing anything like what we saw under the Biden administration, and that's a problem in and of itself. Because what it means is that a lot of Americans saw their wages eaten away under the Biden administration. They saw the values of their paycheck eaten away during the Biden administration. And one of the things we were elected to do, of course, was to fix that problem. And I promise you the president is laser focused every day on fixing that problem. Now, what I will also say is that whether it's the working families tax cuts, putting more money in the pockets of the American people, whether it's bringing a lot of investment into the United States so that we can build the factories and the jobs of the future, the president's laser focused. This stuff does take time. In the same way that the Biden administration's inflation crisis ate away at workers' paychecks for 4 years, it's going to take us a little bit of time before we get workers in a position where we feel like we can look them in the eye and say, you are much, much better off. But that's what we're trying to do. We're going to keep on working at it. I think we made a lot of progress. If you look at the average household wage increase since Donald Trump became president, it's gone up. but we came from a pretty deep hole. We're digging meaning a pretty deep hole, the Biden administration. We're digging ourselves out of it. And what I want is for us to completely dig out of that hole and then to build a brighter and better and more prosperous future for the American people. That's what they elected us to do, and that's very much what we're focused on. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Can we quantify the amount of fraud that's related to illegal immigrants? And what are the asks of California and these other states? What can they do to claw back some of this money that's being deferred?
You know, I don't know that you can quantify it because it's so hard to keep track of all of the criminal migrants who are taking advantage of our system. I mean, they're taken advantage by, the average criminal migrant that we have in an American prison is costing us $60,000 to $120,000 a year, depending on the location. They're collecting health care benefits. A couple of states, California and New York in particular, they actually allow illegal aliens to benefit from the American people's, health care programs, which is just a disgrace. And just a travesty. I mean, if you go into an emergency room, you should know that you're waiting in line with other American citizens, not with people who have been placed to the front of the line by a fraudulent Medicaid program in California. But that's what's happening. We know this is what's happening. And again, it's driving up costs for everybody. It's making it harder to access health care. And it's absolutely fleecing the American taxpayer. It is a lose-lose-lose proposition. I've seen efforts to try to quantify this. I think the answer is hundreds of billions of dollars a year, whether it's 300 or 6. It is a lot of money between Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, prison fees, everything that goes into the criminal migrant problem in the United States of America. It's a lot of money. And again, I talk about the American people. We're a generous country. We're a generous people. I love that about this country. But part of that generosity is that it extends to our fellow Americans. We cannot give Medicare and Medicaid benefits to everybody all over the world. It's going to bankrupt those programs. They ought to belong to Americans first. And that, to me, is the fundamental meaning of America First, is that all of us take a look at our programs, take a look at the fraud, and we say, how do we ensure that the federal government works for the American people first? That's what we're doing every single day, and we're going to keep at it. Thank you, guys.
Welcome back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow. Man.
Fraud everywhere.
I'm amazed that Fox cut away from it. And then I'm like, whew, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I shouldn't be amazed anymore that they cut away from things. And it makes me jump.
They do that quite often.
Find the right feed. But billions being clawed back. What I found funny was the one where he's like, all these different hospices, we've taken their money away, and they didn't even call to follow up. They got on a boat and got out of town.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I said earlier. I said, there's no coincidences. It must be a lot of those Somalian Learing centers doing business.
Yeah. You want to hear something funny? I'm gonna get myself.
Of course,
in trouble.
I love humor, as you can tell.
Okay, excuse me. I'm gonna get myself in trouble here. For 60 years, the Black community has been struggling on welfare and aborting their kids and going to jail and shooting each other, and they're still in the same position today that they were, a lot of the communities, that they weren't 60 years ago.
Yeah.
You get a bunch of dirty foot sandal wearing Somalis show up in Minnesota, and within like 12 months, they're taking 80 million, 200 million, billion, gazillion dollars driving Mercedes. They didn't have to shoot anybody. They didn't have to like sell
They're
any
all
drugs.
millionaires. Where's Bernie Sanders saying, stop the millionaires? Stop this madness.
Opportunity galore. And then
Yeah.
disappear and never have to worry about being chased ever again because nobody knows who the hell they are. And I think to myself, you keep telling the black people there's no opportunity. Did you tell the Somalis? I mean, they have a dark.
They got the memo. All right. Well, let's segue to some good news. Kevin Warsh has been confirmed by the U.S. Senate to be the next chairman of the Federal Reserve, 54 to 45.
When's he take office?
Powell is done. I didn't see that yet, but apparently Trump will be very happy when he wakes up. He probably didn't sleep, but he probably already knows that he was confirmed.
So
also, in your
go ahead.
Huh? No, go ahead.
I was like, how soon he takes office, and then what happens with Powell? Is he going to stay there defiantly? It's going to be interesting because as soon as he gets in, he's going to want to start cutting interest rates. And I don't know if you have to stay on, this Federal Reserve meets on certain times. They have their August meeting and their whatever. I wonder if he can say, you know what, we're going to meet next week. I don't know. I don't know who controls that calendar.
I got an answer. Kevin Warsh is expected to take office as Fed chair around May 15th.
Okay.
According to Grok.
That's 2 days from now, Friday.
Yeah. Powell's term as chair ends on the 15th, so Warsh will succeed him immediately after confirmation and swearing in.
Now, here's what's going to get interesting. He gets in there before he worries about the interest rates. He's going to have access to all the books. He should. And so now, he can work directly with the Department of Justice to see what fraud has been out there because he's got access to the books.
Is it going to be like the FBI where they find a lot of these books and bags in the closets and stuff?
It's a little bit different than the FBI. FBI has, I don't know what, 30, 40,000 employees. There's like 12 people at the Federal Reserve in terms of the governors. That's it. And so it'll be very interesting to see how they start pointing at each other and go, it's him.
Yeah, they don't. Some people don't want to go to jail, so they're going to throw somebody under the bus.
And you know what's really interesting when you think about all this? It's all coming together at the same time. And I don't know if they sat back and planned it, but you got the Medicaid, hospice fraud in Medicare. You got the changing of the guard at the Federal Reserve. You got today's and tomorrow's meetings in China. All of it is just like coming together at the exact same time.
More.
Story. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm loving it. It's keeping me busy.
Yeah.
So what do we got in Florida? It looks like Alligator Alcatraz is closing down. And I was like, kind of like, why? It was doing a good thing. Well, apparently the main driver of it closing down is the extreme expense. And I didn't know this. It says that the facility cost the state over $1 million per day, with peaks even higher, totaling hundreds of millions so far. So apparently there was supposed to be some federal reimbursement for DeSantis, but it hasn't really happened. So, and also DeSantis did describe it as always intended to be temporary. So the 1,400 or so detainees are going to be moved to either be deported or moved to other detention centers. So maybe we can use that to put some libs in there, like, because they seem to think it's a good place.
There's another reason, and I don't know how many of you guys have been following that, but there's definitely another reason why. Let me see if I can pull it up in my feed here, because hold on, let me see if I can find it.
I'm sure the libs are going to claim victory. We closed it down.
No, they won't. I don't think they'll try to claim victory, because there's a story behind all of that. And of course, they're not going to tell you about the story. But here, let me, excuse me. Will this button work to keep you here? Yeah, there you are. Okay,
Oh,
we should
perfect.
be using
I
that
love
more
it.
often. If you send me a
Yeah, I
link,
like this.
I can have it ready to go. All right. So
All right.
this is from ABC News. Immigrants are giving up their claims in immigration court and voluntarily leaving the U.S., quote, in exponentially higher numbers under the Trump
Yes.
administration, according to a new report based on federal data. And that's from ABC News. And for them to say
Wow.
exponentially higher numbers, that's big. That's big. So there's not as much of a need for Alligator Alley, and probably
Okay.
Louisiana's what is it, the Cajun locked up down there, because
Aging crawfish.
they're living. I mean, they're leaving.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cover that story tonight. Give you something to talk about. But you
Okay.
brought it up, and I'm like, yeah, there's a tie-in to this, and the tie-in
Okay.
is they're all leaving. And so once again,
Yeah.
I'll bring it to your attention, everybody's attention. If you're getting this much less in the black vote, and you're getting a whole lot of your people who aren't supposed to be here are leaving, how do you make up those numbers? And that's
They
something
don't.
I've been talking about for a long time. Is
Yeah.
like, we don't need to win the black vote. I don't care if we win the black vote. We just need to chip off enough where they can't win. Again, if you guys have not looked at the historical nature of the voting block that the Democrats have, it's always 90, 92, 93%. And Trump, if he gets in there and he can pull 10% off, they're done. They're done.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's a win-win. I have one last story. So this was coming out of California. I can't believe this. This just when I raised my eyebrows. So apparently Newsom just blew $189 million of California taxpayer money on, get this, digital tablets for every inmate in the state prison system, including death row. Like, okay. They sold it as education and rehabilitation. They said the convicted murderers and rapists are turning them into personal porn machines. They said while California families sleep in tents, businesses flee the state, streets are covered in human waste and taxes crush the middle class, Newsom made sure the worst criminals to get free government-issued devices to watch porn in their cells. This isn't leadership. This is an absolute clown world insanity. Unbelievable. I mean,
hey man,
when does it end?
Can I interject here?
Okay.
If you're on death row, maybe we could slide a little bit. Here's some porn, bro. Okay, you got nothing. You have nothing to look forward to. You got these 4 brick walls and a little window, and you get some gruel once in a while. Here's a little tablet for you to log into. In fact, you don't even have to do anything. Just click the play button. We'll check back on you in an hour or so.
It's crazy. I mean, they said some of them were actually talking to minors as well. I mean, I worked in IT.
They could log into it wasn't just a play only button.
Yeah,
they could actually
see. That's what I was going to say. I worked in IT. They should have had like a firewall and stuff. They said they had free reign to go out and wherever they wanted. What in the hell?
I thought you were saying they got the tablet and it had it queued up like Debbie does the district or something. You click the button, or Fred does the district. You never know in California. I did not know that they had communication ability to reach out. I thought it was a one-way stream. Oh my gosh!
I mean, I'll try to grok it later, but I read on some of the comments that it was wide open. So I mean, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I mean, you're on death row and you're getting all this. I mean, I can see a last meal, right? But their victim didn't get a last meal, but they're getting free porn. I don't know.
I'm sure if you gave them a choice, say, hey man, we're going to give you steak for dinner, or we're going to give you 12 hours at Pornhub. What do you?
Ka-ching. Freddie does light in the loafers in California.
Okay. It's funny because these stories write themselves. You're crying here. You say to yourself, this stuff can't be real. It's got to be insane. There's no possible way they're handing out tablets to these.
Some of the
gosh.
comments you don't want to read too because they're just nasty.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, that's all I have for the moment here, but I'm sure I'll have a lot more. And you're going
All
to be
right. Well,
going live tonight around 9:30 tonight.
yeah, let me finish up. I think I've got 5 more segments. I'll go through it really
Oh,
quick.
okay. Perfect.
I'm just trying to get
That's a hard act to follow.
I'm trying to get that visual out of my head. All right, talk to you in a bit.
See ya.
Number 7. But I think this poll serves as a big-time reality check for Democrats, and that is, it ain't over yet, especially with the redistricting when we look ahead to the 2026 race for Congress. You would have thought that the Democrats' lead would expand on the generic congressional ballot. It didn't happen. Look, in March, Democrats were up by 6 points. Look at this now. Democrats are up by 3 points, and I want you to note the yellow lettering. No clear leader. It is with...
I put this in because was it Ashley or Robin or both of them have asked me in the last couple of days, what the hell is Obama doing? What is he doing over in England? And what's he doing over here? And he's going to this meeting and that meeting. What is Obama doing? Well, Obama is answering this thing from CNN. They don't have a leader. Hakeem Jeffries? No. Chuck Schumer? No, go make some, raw hamburgers or something. There's no leader. Hillary Clinton has finally just said to hell with it. I'm not doing it. And so if there's nobody out there that they can look to as the figurehead of the party, remember, as you're seeing these numbers, I don't think that these numbers are meant for public consumption as much as a warning or like a bat signal to Obama.
In the margin of error. So despite all of the talk about Donald Trump's unpopularity, the fact is Republicans very much remain in the game when it comes to the congressional midterms, which are occurring in 6 or 7 months at this point?
Yes, and don't call me Shirley. So a lead of 3 points in the generic ballot test here. Does that get the job done?
No, it might not actually get the job done. And I love any reference to Airplane, I will say, and Leslie Nielsen. Look at this. Okay, take a look here. Democrats in the National House vote margin. According to my estimate, what they need for control with redistricting in terms of the national popular vote is somewhere of a win between 3 and 4 points. What's CNN's current poll with no clear leader? It's a 3-point advantage. If this were, in fact, the actual result come Election Day, the race for Congress, the race for the House, would be basically a toss-up. And that is why the redistricting efforts that have been happening are so important. Because before the redistricting happened, Democrats essentially just needed to win the National House popular vote in order to win control of the House of Representatives. But now, with the redistricting, their ladder, they have to climb ever higher, and a 3-point win may very well not do it. This is well within the realm of possibilities. Could be Democrats take back the House.
Now you understand? Now you know why Obama is out there trying to meet with all these different people. And then why I even heard yesterday that he is meeting with some of the people in the Senate and Congress almost on a daily basis like a coach. You got to do this, you got to do that. He's calling the shots because even though this is a CNN poll, which I think is BS, I think they're already done. They're trying to keep people together because it's close, everybody. It's really close. You got to keep pushing. You got to fight.
I know if Democrats outperform the CNN poll by a few points, they take it back, but they could underperform as well, and that would be big-time
big-time trouble. He's exactly right. They know it. That's pulling the 9-alarm fire right there. They know they're in deep trouble, and there's nobody. Newsom? Nope, he's got no cachet. He can't get in there and do all that stuff. Nobody wants to hear it. California's burning. Who else? Stacey Abrams? Nope. You find it very hard to think of a Democrat leader. They don't have any. That's why they're all out there crying racism.
6.
This is a radical Supreme Court that is making decisions simply to benefit Republicans. It's going to usher in massive Supreme Court reform when Democrats take control, and that will be because of the actions of extreme political actor John Roberts in this partisan Supreme Court.
Okay, Ted. Like I said, they got no leadership. They got robots. So we're going to go out there and reform the Supreme Court. We're going to do all this stuff. We're going to rip it apart. I love the fact that the Democrats are telling people months in advance that we're going to destroy the Constitution. I think that's a winning message. I hope they continue to just keep telling as many people as possible, we are just going to rip up the Constitution. We are going to make sure at this point that every norm in your society that you've grown up with, you've brought your kids together, you've started businesses, we're going to destroy it all. We're going to make sure we're going to ram boys back into girls' sports. We're going to tear up the Constitution and pack the court. We're going to raise your taxes. We're going to reverse everything Doge did. Yeah, go ahead, run on that. Please run on that.
Number 5.
Iran is 2 to 3 times more powerful today than they were when this war started.
I wanted to stop it there because, yes, he just did say that. He just said that Iran is more powerful, 3 to 4 times more powerful than they were before. And it's such an outrageous statement. Even the dude on MSNBC goes, you sure about that, bro?
Everyone now has to come to Tehran.
2 to 3 times.
Yeah, you really think that, bro? You just told everybody you're bat poo crazy. We don't have to listen anymore. I know they went from 150 ships down to 0. 3 times more would be 450. They are way away from 3 times more stronger. They have no boats. How can you get on national television and say this idiocy?
Well, I mean, everyone has to come to Tehran today to beg for their ships to be let out of the Gulf. Not small nations, big nations, right? The Chinese, the Indians, the Qataris have to show up to Iran to plead their case as to why their ships should be led through. And that's probably going to be how things work for the foreseeable future. And so Iran was really a regional power. Why I say they are 2 or 3 times more powerful today is that by putting them in a position where they could close the strait, we have now made them a global power. Now,
yeah. Oh man, their audience must be made up of complete boneheads. There's no other answer for it. How else could you listen to somebody who is a elected official, unfortunately, and he's telling people that the country that they've blown to bits is 3 times more powerful and that you have to ask permission. Really? You really think that?
Every country has to come to Iran and cut a deal in order to let their ships go through. That's a kind of power that Iran didn't have or couldn't have imagined until we put them in this position.
Number 4.
What do you say to people who are still numb to all of this about what's going on inside these internment camps? What do they need to know to wake up to the horrors that Americans and refugees and people who are here legally are going through right now, every day, in internment camps paid for by them?
What internment camps? Please tell me where these internment camps are. They lie. All they can do is lie.
Open your eyes and wake up. Literally wake up. Because the problem that I see is that this administration makes blanket statements about what's not happening, and we have a portion of our nation, people that are like, believe them blindly. Even if they know what's happening, they hear what's happening, they can see it with their own eyes. If this administration says it's a lie, then they believe it. And that, to me, we have to realize that 91% of the people in detention right now in these concentration camps are...
She's saying Trump is lying, while simultaneously lying out of her butthole. 91% of the concentration camps. What concentration camps and what 91%? Nobody calls these people on their bull crap. It's completely insane.
In private prisons, 91%.
Number 3.
How many people who are unhoused that you meet have no teeth at all? They don't have teeth. Why? Because meth rots your teeth. You can't succeed without teeth.
I'm thinking teeth isn't their major problem, okay? Because if you're a meth head and all your teeth are falling out of your face, maybe it's the meth that's the problem, not so much the teeth. We can work on the whole teeths afterwards. We can figure out how to make them more presentable, but they're going to have to stop. You got to stop that first. And so now, I guess in the middle of an election for mayor of Los Angeles, she has decided that there is a major push to give meth heads teeth. You can't make this stuff up. She's going to get destroyed by Spencer Pratt. I'm like, wait a second. You got people all over the city who need this and that and the other thing. And your big push right now is to, I think we're going to spend like $1 gazillion giving meth heads teeth.
So there needs to be comprehensive health care provided to people.
Californians, what the hell are you doing? Yes, Spencer Pratt is doing such a great job because he's able to just, any of us could combat that. Like, wait a second. Did you just say you want taxpayers to give meth heads teeth? Oh my gosh. But I think I got another one for you here.
Number 2.
But what's worrying me now is that his social media is now taking on a violent turn. And that worries me, because when you do that and when your messages are so hateful, or when you demonize people.
You mean like calling somebody fascist, Hitler, racist? You know, the stuff you guys been doing for the last 10 years. Now all of a sudden it's being turned on her and she don't like it. It's going to cause violence. People don't like me because you're calling me crazy and you're making memes. The left can't meme. Now, you know that's for sure. Now, you're going to see a couple of memes she talks about, but I had to gloss them over so that YouTube doesn't have a problem with them.
You do provoke people who are unstable, and you can jeopardize people's safety.
You mean like the throwing of the tomatoes?
Well, the throwing of the tomatoes, which look like blood, or drowning me and the governor in a reservoir. But there's also other violent scenes. And so I've noticed that it's taking on a violent trend.
These people can't even look themselves in the mirror. Miss Bass, yeah. How many times have you called us maggots, fascist, Hitlerian, racist, homophobic, xenophobic, whatever other phobics? But that's okay. But don't throw a meme. Don't put up a meme with me getting hit in the face with a tomato. Feelings? How about F your feelings? How about you wanted maximum warfare? You get maximum warfare. My gosh. These people ain't built for this. They were never expecting you, me, MAGA, to take on the mantle and say, we embrace maximum warfare. This ain't your old GOP that cowers. We want it. You threw down the gauntlet and said you have maximum warfare. Oh, wait a minute. Do I have it? I think you pretty much told us maximum warfare all the time, everywhere, and you ain't going to be able to do nothing about it. And now all of a sudden, here comes that maximum warfare, and it's getting right up your patootie.
We are in an era of maximum warfare. Everywhere, all the time.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, and I will keep that there because I want every single one of you to know what you're involved in. That was the stupidest mistake he's probably ever made, to act as though you were going to poke an entire swath to engage in maximum warfare everywhere all the time. Step aside. Let us who are ready for this, bring it. Let's go. You guys should be pumped up. You should be pumped up because we're winning.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
It's funny. I just saw somebody in a clip said somebody else is playing the Jeffries clip all the time now. That's okay. I don't care if people copy it. It's flattery. What do they say? Flattery is imitation, whatever you call it. I don't care. You know why I don't care? Because we're all on the same team. And if somebody wants to pump up their audience, their family, their community, then so be it. Get everybody all pumped up. We're all on the same team. We want to see America win. It's not like we all have separate teams. Well, maybe a couple of the bigger guys with names that I won't mention have separate agendas, but for the most part, most of us want to see America win. And if it takes people using someone else's idea and doing something else, then that's fine. But let's all understand we are enduring, and instead of accepting maximum warfare everywhere all the time, we're dishing it out to the point where, Karen Bass is like, it's mean. It's mean when it's going to incite violence. Too late. You set the rules. You declared war. It's back on you right now. Is that tough? I don't know. I just had a tough conversation with my sister. I can't even tell you what I said to her, one of my sisters. It's a tough go. She went on and she's talking about being a Democrat and Republican and Trump's not a nice guy. And I said, F your feelings to my own sister. I love her. But I know what she's been through. I know the life she's had. And I said to her, what has been different in your life in the last 50 years? You ever see the meme from, what's his name, Cat Jackson? Like, don't worry, I'll wait. Yeah, I put that, don't worry, take inventory and get back to me. See, when I took on the mantle of maximum warfare everywhere all the time, I ain't taking no prisoners. I don't expect any mercy. Even for people who are close to me, don't step. I'm gonna beat you down. Why? Because y'all called it that way. Y'all decided you wanted to take a shot at this man. You wanted to call us all kinds of names, and now you get what you get. Maximum warfare right back at you every day, everywhere, all the time. Are you ready for that? I hope so. All right, so unfortunately, maximum warfare doesn't just mean against the Democrats. We now need to mobilize against an internal enemy.
Number 1.
Where do you stand on that currently? Would you reconsider getting rid of the filibuster to get it across the finish line?
We don't have the votes to get rid of the filibuster. We called it up on the floor March, I think, 17th. We were on it for several weeks and had a very spirited debate. In fact, I think with the exception of maybe a couple of Republican senators, made more speeches on the floor in support of the SAVE Act than almost any other senator. And we had some votes on it. And we voted on the narrow issue, which is the most popular one, of voter ID. And we put the Democrats on the record. Every single Democrat voted against it. We added, and one of the other elements, also popular.
You know what? I've got another meme for what's his face here, John Thune. John, about your votes that you took and you tried to make nice with the Democrats. Okay, you know how we feel right now.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
If we're in this maximum warfare thing, it means the Republicans in Congress and in the Senate got to grow a pair. You got to break the filibuster. You have no choice but to break the filibuster. You can see what these people are doing. They're laughing in your face. They're laughing right in your face and telling you, don't do it, John. Don't, because if you do it, oh my God, like they're not going to do it the first chance they get. And everyone knows that John Thune is basically a Mitch McConnell acolyte. Well, President Trump saw something. I don't know if you guys saw it televised. I couldn't believe I was watching Mitch McConnell on television, hosting or chairing some sort of hearing. And while he's talking, this guy kept whispering in his ear, telling him what to say. He obviously was completely out of his faculties. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And this guy kept coming from the side going, yeah, tell him no, yeah, oh, okay. And he would just repeat. He was like a parrot. Well, President Trump saw that too. President Trump said that guy that came up to Mitch McConnell today when McConnell thought the hearing was over and started speaking in his ear for Mitch to belatedly introduce some other people, all Democrats, and by doing so made Mitch look foolish and completely out of it, should be immediately fired. This was a case where Mitch wasn't confused. He just didn't understand why he was being asked to do something when it was too late and people were wrapping up to leave. They wanted to go home. His name is Robert Karam. This is a name you guys can begin blasting. Robert Karam. He is a never Trumper and was grandstanding, trying to show how important he was. Karam was tremendous. Karam has tremendous Democrat support, far greater than he should have, and is praised relentlessly by Obama's people. Obama. He is probably the reason why Mitch McConnell is stupidly opposed to terminating the filibuster and refused to help with the 97% issue. The Save America Act, fire the bum, President Donald J. Trump. And there's the, I guess you could take one look at him and see what side of the aisle he comes from. Pretty much you can tell. And Trump has had it with McConnell, and he's had it with Thune.
Was whether or not biological boys ought to play in girls' sports. We had that vote, and every Democrat voted against that as well. So we've taken what I think are probably the two issues, in my view, that have the broadest public support and put the Democrats on record, and every single one of them voted against it. So we'll look for opportunities to get other votes. There was a vote on the budget resolution, an amendment that Senator Kennedy offered that didn't even get 50 votes on the floor. And so we're continuing to look for opportunities to advance that legislation. Obviously, it's something that I support. I think we all support. And we think it's something that the American people are broadly supportive as well. Yeah.
It's your job. It's your job to get it done. We are in a situation at this point that if this guy doesn't get done, I think Trump's just going to. Let me tell you something I told Robin this morning, and you guys may not want to, you may not agree, but I almost wonder if President Trump is going to do something like we've all wanted the Insurrection Act. We wanted some form of martial law. And at this, I think we're getting close to a point where the hand grenade, not yet, it's only May, but the hand grenade might need to get pulled. We are in such a bad way with our government between the snakes in the grass and everything else. Maybe the Democrats got wind of what was planned. Maybe the reason they were talking about no kings is because they realized Trump is still sitting on the Insurrection Act. Maybe they'll get so mad about the Supreme Court that they'll start rioting and acting crazy. Maybe they'll play right into his hands where he'll have to suspend and not allow the elections. Do I want to see that? No. But I'm starting to prepare myself for that because we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. I know this man is a warrior at heart. He's not going to go down and let these people do what they want to do. It's not going to happen. But listen to, what's his name? Dana White, how he describes President Trump.
My biggest problem with the media, who the fuck are you and what the fuck have you ever done? Nothing. You're nobody and you've never done anything ever. Nobody's ever depended on you for a paycheck. Who are you to criticize anybody? I was just saying at the press conference in Winnipeg on Saturday, you have all these people on the internet talking about what we should be doing with our business. I said, holy shit, you guys are fucking brilliant. PFL, Bellator, ONE FC, many other failing companies. Why don't they just fucking hire you guys? You guys have the answers for everything, right? It's just, I can't even read this shit because it's so dumb. And I realize These guys know nothing about this business, yet these are the people that are covering it. It's fascinating to me that anybody listens to any of these people.
You see, I look at that very similar to what Trump has to go through, and people get mad because, oh, you called the reporter dumb. And, there were some bad words that Dana said, and some of you guys might not like it, but I gotta believe that President Trump thinks the exact same way. He can't say the words like that. He can't say, you dumb F. What are you, effing stupid? But you can tell lately he's gotten to the point where these people have no idea what they're talking about. You can't even criticize me because you've never done anything. And if you look at, some of the bios of some of these people in the media, you will get that confirmed. You will realize that you are watching people on television who've never done anything with their lives. Just imagine that. But, when you're watching football on the weekends and you're seeing the color commentators, they always have somebody who, I don't know, he's a Hall of Famer, he's got Super Bowl rings, he's done something. Tom Brady's in the booth. Yeah, the other guy can go, yeah, it's a 3rd and 1. And, hey, Tom, what do you think? Well, I think he's going to do this. Or Tony Romo. There's even in baseball and hockey, there's that third person in the room or in the booth who will tell you, this is what I think is going to happen. And most of the time, they're pretty good and they're dead on because they've actually done it. When's anyone in the media who's, ever talked to, contractors? Even in their own houses? Nope. So why the hell do I care what you have to say? And as Dana was saying, and light bulbs blew off on me, and I'm like, it's sort of like trolls in the chat. Why do I give a shit what you have to say? You are completely meaningless. You don't know anything. You're there basically to be a troll for Trump. He walks down the aisle outside there. What question? And he just laughs at him. Pisses him off. But I think that's what we need to get to. I think we need to get to the point where if you don't know what you're talking about, not you specifically, I'm talking about the people in the press, why are you listening to them? I don't know. They're there to make you think a certain way. They're there to twist President Trump's words. Every single negative possible thing you can think of, they will quickly write. And some people have asked me, well, Barry, how do you sometimes can project what's going to happen? I just listen to him. I don't care what all the periphery has to say. I think I've shown you enough of the libtardery that you now know they don't care. They don't know anything. And so you just listen to him. And if you don't trust Trump, that's nothing I can do about that. But I know the history of the man. I know what he's done. I know who he's done it with. I know the failures. I know the successes, and I can gauge accordingly. And I don't need some wet out of college kid with a journalism degree to tell me what's going on. Not even on television. And you don't need me to tell you what's going on. I just want to give you what he's saying. And as he's saying this, you understand, okay, that makes sense. I may try to interpolate something he says, but today, going to China with those people, they don't even know. They have not, can you imagine any of them talking with, I don't know, Tim Cook? No. What are you going to talk about? Somebody has to give them their opinion. They don't have any clue. They can't talk about this. Otherwise, they wouldn't be reporters. See, that's the thing about it. If you step back and look and you realize that people on TV get paid big salaries to try and keep people watching, the people in those galleries talking, for the most part, they're not making much scratch. They're trying to scratch an itch. They're trying to get to the Hannity level or something, but most of them are just there and they're told what to ask. And so they're being obnoxious on purpose and they don't even know how to follow. think to yourself, if you were there today when JD Vance was talking with Dr. Oz and they were talking about the fraud, what question would you have asked any of those people up there? What question was of interest to you? Because if it's of interest to you, it's probably of interest to quite a few people. And every time I watch these press conferences, I keep a pad right here and I write down, what is it I would have asked? And today was very interesting because he covered it all. He didn't leave much to ask. One of the things I probably would have asked is, how did this happen? Have you done enough work at this point to understand how did we get to the point where people could steal billions of dollars from the federal government? How could that possibly have happened? Didn't hear one reporter ask that. Have you been able to do any review of showing how long it's been happening? Does it stretch back to Bush? Does it, how long have people been stealing for the government? Or rather, the taxpayers? That's the kind of question I would ask. You saw today when the guy, I don't know if you saw it, but there was a whistleblower giving testimony about the Jabademic. And one of the things that came up, and Robin texted me because I was sitting here watching it and my jaw hit the ground. I don't know if you guys want to dial back and look at it, but he started talking. Okay, I'm going to end the show with this because they might zap me on here. He started talking about MK Ultra. And when he went there, I literally my jaw just went, oh my God. He just went to, and of course I would get a break to a commercial. Nobody ever wants to talk about that. And if you don't know what that is, you don't even have to be a Q person. Go look that up. In fact, I don't know, instead of like doing any research like that, here, let me just give you some homework. Go watch the original Manchurian Candidate with, I think, Frank Sinatra. And then watch the Bourne movies. Robert Ludlum wrote the book, and that book was about MK Ultra, and nobody likes to talk about it, but great movie. Great movie with these people where, he was programmed to go do things he was supposed to do. And where do you think the idea came from? And then today, I was like, OMG. It dropped right in front of us. Wow. I'm going to leave it at that. Have you seen that?
I don't know how to follow you sometimes. This is good.
Yeah.
When I think about that, I think about the discombobulator, that's a mind F, right? Making your nose bleed, your ears bleed and all that stuff. But wow. Yeah.
It's one of those things I've dug into it myself quite a bit. Robin has dug into it quite a bit. And it's one of those things that you get into that wormhole, it is going to terrify you. Because one, you'll think, did our government really do this? Could it really happen? And then you see how many people have brushed it off as conspiratorial. And then you wonder, well, then where did the Manchurian Candidate movie come from? Where did the movie, what was it, with Charles Bronson, Telephone? Hollywood only has a few different stories and they remake them all the time. And Telephone came, I think Manchurian came first, then Telephone, and then of course then recently the Bourne Identity, the Bourne Ultimatum and everything else. But go look at that.
I know. There are no coincidences. That's always a fact.
No.
So Trump apparently is up already. It's 3:30 a.m. He dropped allegedly a banger of a video. It's a 30-second video with music you can't play probably, but it basically shows him arriving in China with all the the folks welcome him. So cue the meltdown showing, they're going to say, oh, he's a fascist. He loves communism. I mean, he's in bed with President Xi.
We're late enough in the show where I can probably show it and then delete it afterwards. So let me just show it real quick here. I'm going to walk on the
Okay.
edge here, SB. I'm
All
out
right.
there. I'm out
Touch
there on
that
the
third
edge.
rail. Touch it.
Hit that
Touch it.
third rail. The only thing wrong with that is too short. That's it. That's the only
Yeah.
thing.
I
It's way
expected it
too
to be
short.
longer. I was like, put more content. But still, I'm sure that it's gonna be on the news.
SB, can you see the wait a second. Can you see the bottom of the screen? Somebody, hold on. Can you see that?
Yes. Yes.
Somebody cracked it like, oh my God.
Yep. You're leading them to the water, Barry, and they can drink it.
And people jump into that like, oh, you got to be kidding me there. Man.
Wow.
Not even allowed to really talk about it. I mean, I'd probably go dark quickly if I just dug into it. But
the lights would be turned off immediately. You would have another lightning strike, which would be permanent. Wait a minute, hold it.
I can't hear anything. Oh my God. Ooh, man, there's some stuff that you could read that'll just scare you. It'll really give you chills because you don't think your government would do it, and then things start putting them together. Britney Spears. Okay, did I say that out loud? Oh my gosh. Robin always talks about her and says, "What did they do to that poor girl?" Oh my goodness.
She is yeah. She's crazy. At a minimum.
Oh God. All right. Well, let me clean up here. 9:30 tonight. I just want to let you guys know, I don't know what to expect. I'll have some stuff before he gets on. Hopefully they'll be on time since they're on Chinese time or 8, whatever it's called. I don't know, Greenwich something time. But anyway, we'll cover it. Be relaxed. We'll see what happens and see what President Trump and Xi talk about. So 9:30 tonight.
Look forward to it.
All right, brother.
All right, see you tonight.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Let me do super chats real quick, and then we'll adjourn until 9:30 or so tonight. Let me see if this is in line. Here we go. Fukoski, thank you. Twice, thank you. 3. Not important what Schumer said. No, not at all. Thank you, Fukoski. Liza or Lisa, looking forward to watch you. God bless you, brother. Thank you. Gen V, administration has done a poor job of showcasing its accomplishments. For instance, opportunity zones, Trump accounts send ambassadors out to inner city churches and communities to inform people. I will have to agree with you. 100%. Not enough people know what's going on in these different economic developments and what they can do. And again, it's not that people are misinformed. They're just not informed at all. They're completely uninformed. Like you just said, the Trump accounts, why everybody's not doing it that can afford aren't doing it. The opportunity zones, if you start digging into the opportunity zones, even if today you're not ready to do something, it'll give you some food for thought where you'll think, man, maybe let me think about this. What could I do here? Maybe I could open up a bakery, a commercial. I mean, all kinds of things that can happen. But you're right. Tinley, yep, we just got Kevin Warsh for Fed interest down soon, I believe so. Hello, Chiosop twice here. Tell the black people that the Somalis took their representations and let them go after them to get that money back. The only way for Democrats to know how to do it was by cheating. Now Trump took that away, so they don't know how to do anything legally. Nope, you're absolutely right. I have to agree with you. Oh, we got some new numbers. Hold on. Let me see. Let me put this up here.
Delegation.
No, this one. Oops, I don't have it. I thought I had it up there, but they were talking about Spencer Pratt basically at this point is number 2 above the other socialists. So that's interesting. Chiosop again. How you know he was elected? Most likely installed. I think you're talking about Mandami. Yeah, you're right. Bukowski, politicians don't do their job. They feel comfortable over 50 years. No, it makes it very easy for them, and that's one of the problems that they end up having. Excuse me. Chiefs up again twice here. Thank you, brother. They must have so much on these rhinos to hold them hostage for them to see what happened in Indiana and continue trying to block Trump. You just got to take it from them at this point. It's our job to help the admin get the word out. I completely agree. That's why I'm sitting here. And Landsteady, we should really pray for Brittany. She was a kid. Yeah, they did some bad stuff to Brittany. You can see she's just all broken completely. All right, we will see you guys at 9:30 tonight. Hope you guys can drink some coffee and make it. All right.